I'm in the field, 2-minute drill, highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control, buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back to back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care. Come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? A fantastic Monday evening it is here in the studio. And, of course, you'll recognize that, no, there is no Brooks tonight. He is continuing his football pilgrimage. So it's just me and Kirby in the studio tonight. It will also just be me and Kirby in the studio tomorrow as well. Brooks is going to be gone for the entire week, and he's got some stuff planned up. So you guys know, if you were here with us last spring, you know it gets a little sporadic around here. Schedules get mixed up. Brooks is here when he can be. But for now, he's continuing to develop his football knowledge by visiting all kinds of football programs across the country. But we still have a loaded show that we're going to deliver to you guys tonight. We got a bunch of topics that we want to cover in tonight's MBR episode. We're going to talk some SEC win totals. You know, may feel a little premature for that, considering it's still the month of March. We've got a long way to go till the season starts, but you know those betting sites, they don't wait. They don't hesitate to release these SEC win totals and win totals in general at college football, so we're going to talk about that. Some most hated players in college football, going to touch on that. Greg Sankey kind of clearing the air a little bit on the direction that the SEC would like to go with as far as playoff expansion. We're going to talk about a Jeremiah Love take that Christian Kirby has that he's going to deliver tonight. And then things that better happen for teams in 2026. And we're going to talk some Louisiana Tech football schedule tonight, believe it or not. Stay tuned to see what we could possibly be revealing about the Louisiana Tech football schedule. But first and foremost, Kirby, you doing good? Did you have a good weekend?
I had a really good weekend, actually, man.
Did you have a productive weekend?
I would like to think so. Did you have a productive weekend?
Yeah, I think I did. I enjoyed myself.
What did you produce this weekend?
I did some live updates for baseball, so that's always fun. You know, it's that time of year where football is no longer, so we got to cover some baseball games. So I was, trying to get my yard in shape. Live in a neighborhood where they look down on you if you don't have your yard in tip-top shape.
Dude, they would hate to see my yard.
Yeah, I'm used to just the basics of cut the grass, do the little things, but I've got some fresh pine straw, got the first cut in as well, got to do some other things. But
well, the tenants that lived in it originally didn't really maintain it, so it's just kind of all weeds now.
So not your fault.
So I don't mow the lawn, it's just I'm cutting the weeds now.
Well, I'm the first tenant of this one, so it is my responsibility to make sure it stays in tip-top shape. But let's get on with the show. The first thing that we're going to talk about, Greg Sankey, kind of clear in the air. Not too long ago here on this show, we said where it seemed like the SEC is in favor of moving to a 24-team playoff, much like the Big Ten. They've been big proponents of that. Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel both were pretty vocal about how if that's the direction of college football, if that's where we're going, then so be it. That's what we'll support, and that's what we're cool with it. But Greg Sankey kind of clear in the air saying, whoa, not so fast. That's not exactly our preferred option with how this goes.
Yeah, so On3 did a really good piece earlier today about, basically interviewing Greg Sankey about what he thinks about the futures of college football, and he made it a very big point to talk about two things. He reiterated his stance that he thinks 16 teams is the sweet spot. That's what the initial proposal was for the SEC. Ultimately, the Big 12 came back Big Ten came back and said, we want 24 teams.
Yep.
Neither side was able to agree on anything, so it remained at 12. And he also wanted to reiterate that the scheduling, that the SEC didn't get duped into going to a 9-game schedule. But that's not necessarily what I want to deep dive into right now. What I want to talk about is how basically the quotes that Sankey gives, one, were very, very much, I'm not offering any predictions on this. I'm not giving away my thoughts for free. I'm not here to make predictions. That's outside of, what I think. The powers that be will control certain things. But he did want to reiterate that 16 teams is what the SEC is pushing for. And I put this in the show notes because I feel like it goes against what our narrative was a few weeks ago of how, okay, typically we see SEC coaches feel like they're getting fed these talking points.
Yeah.
We mentioned that Eli Drinkowitz mentioned 30 teams in the media days last year. Josh Heupel seems open to 24 teams. Kirby Smart seems open to 24 teams. Kind of the conspiracy of us was that, okay, Greg Sankey and the SEC are kind of pushing out these floaters to get momentum going on the 24 team so that when it finally comes around, there won't be as much pushback from fans. And honestly, I don't think that's the truth at all now. The fact that Greg Sankey's here, and it's a really, really long piece, really good work from On 3. I suggest you go and read it. But him basically saying 16 teams is what we want made me realize this new quote, this new realization for me. When college football coaches are asked about almost anything that they don't necessarily have a deep, vast amount of knowledge about or a really strong opinion on, most of the time they just, I think that's a good idea. I think this is fine. I think this is what the future is. Like, if you go back and you read the Kirby Smart and the Josh Heupel quotes of what their thoughts are on the 2014 playoff, neither of them are like, this has to happen. This will be so great for our sport. It will save everything. I am so for. It was kind of just like, I'm open to it. I think it would create some better rivalries, I think is what Kirby Smart said. Josh Heupel said it kind of seems like that's what the sport's evolving to. Neither of them seem super gung-ho about it. So I don't think that the SEC or Greg Sankey is telling their head coaches, hey, float out the 2014 playoffs so that we can get these talking points going. I think it's more just when you ask a head coach about something he doesn't really care about or necessarily have a strong opinion on, these are the type of answers that they give you.
Yeah, when I went and reread Kirby Smart's quotes on the 2014 playoff and the potential of college football shifting to that, at first I kind of had the realization that we had initially about all of this of like, oh, Kirby Smart pro 2014 playoff. But then when I went back and reread and rewatched Kirby Smart talking about this, I then kind of shifted my opinion to this is very clearly Kirby Smart just kind of saying, if that's eventually what we get to, then so be it. Like, whatever. Like, if this is how this is going to go, then, I'll be here. I'll be coaching Georgia. Or, like, if I'm still the coach of Georgia and that's what we get to, then, like, so be it. We play football. If that's what we have to do to win a national title here, then we'll play the 2014 bracket. Like, ultimately, it's not entirely in my control. And so now it kind of makes sense when Greg Sankey comes out and talks about this of, hey, 16 teams might be the preferred option, which I think that all college football fans would be a big supporter of that, because I think the biggest issue with the most recent expansion in the playoff was we went from 4 all the way to 12 when most people were like, hey, maybe 6, maybe 8. How about we start with that? And if we think that works, then maybe we can open the door to talking about putting 12 teams in this thing. But jumping all the way from 4 teams all the way to 12 teams, that seems very drastic. And so would be going from 12 teams to 24 teams. So I think that Greg Sankey, a very polarizing figure at the moment. You can say whether you like or dislike the things that he's done recently. I would say this is one of the things that I like him kind of pushing, or at least suggesting of, hey, instead of just doubling the size of the playoff just because we think it would be great for the sport and because we want more teams in this, how about we actually work things through? Like, hey, add 2 more teams, see how the flow is, see how all of this works before we just say, 12 more teams into the mix. That sounds great.
And I do think it is worth noting 2 things here. One, Eli Drinkowitz is kind of backing off his stance. Again, we mentioned it earlier. In front of the podium in SEC Media Days heading into the 2025 season, he was a big, hey, we need 30 teams. That's a quarter of what the NCAA is. The NFL does this, and it works great for them. He was also asked about this more recently and gave a quote, I don't know if it's 24, I don't know if it's 16. I've always been adamant that it shouldn't be a committee. It should be about results on the field, and there should be a play and opportunities whether you go to 16 or 24. So he's even kind of pumping the brakes on his massive expansion. And Sankey did remind people that in 2022 there was a vote as to what led to ultimately the expansion. And if there was a majority of vote that had been taken at that point, he said, quote, the majority would have voted for 9 games. So it doesn't feel like expansion is the thing that's on everyone's mind and it's what they want. So that's reassuring for those who don't think that we need to get anything bigger than 12. However, it does seem like at some point there will be another round of expansion that comes.
Yeah, and then, that gets confusing too as like just college football fans and people who observe the sport. It is kind of hard to get a gauge at times of like what feels like the most important priority for the sport. Like in the offseason, there's a lot of talk about fixing NIL, fixing the transfer portal, just kind of creating balance across everything and trying to create rules. And how do you establish those rules? And does the NCAA have power? How do they regain power? Does the College Sports Commission actually work? Are they doing anything? All of those things. So like that feels like the most important thing. And then you get into the season and the playoff talk starts up, and then it feels like the college football playoff is the most important thing at the time. Like it's very based on the season of the time, it feels like, but it's really hard to know like what do the coaches think? Like what do all these CEOs and what of all these people in college football that actually have a voice and have power in all of this, what do they feel like is the most important thing right now? Like what is at the tippy top of their list of things that the college football needs to fix or change? So it kind of just depends on like the current time of year of what ultimately feels like the most important thing. But truly, I feel like we never know, because then, I mean, earlier in the year, we have this meeting of all the FBS head coaches and they're voting on this new rule. And it seems like it's a great opportunity to kind of hash out all of these things that are wrong with college football and how we should fix them. And instead we end up voting on, hey, red shirt rule, what should we do with that? Oh, 9 games. They can play 9 games now. When any college football fan you would have talked to or asked, that would have never even probably come up on their list, or maybe outside of the top 10 for sure. So it just seems weird. Like you never truly know, like, hey, what are they discussing right now? What's moving forward?
Yeah, it's very nuts and very confusing time to be a college football fan. So.
And speaking of things you probably don't know about, Louisiana Tech has a very obscure football schedule this season. Yes, Louisiana Tech, not one of these SEC powerhouses or a Big 10 or Big 12, whatever. Louisiana Tech in a bit of a bind right now. Hear about lawsuits all the time, but this is a very interesting one that has resulted in Louisiana Tech having, you said, 20 games on the schedule this year, right?
2-0.
20.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Louisiana Tech is currently in a legal dispute about Conference USA and Sun Belt, about transitioning between the two, which has ultimately resulted in both conferences scheduling games for them. So they currently have 20 games on their 2026 football schedule, which include teams such as LSU, FIU, Baylor. Like, it's not just 20 cans. Like, they're playing really tough schedules. So obviously they're not going to play 20 games this season, but looking at it right now on paper, it's pretty incredible. The weirdest thing about it to me is that I think there's only like 2 or 3 of them that are even scheduled to take place on the same day.
So there's like a whole bunch of Tuesday, Thursday, Friday games or something like that?
Yeah, so if you just look at it here, they've got a Saturday game against the Army Black Knights on October 3rd. They have a Thursday game against the FIU Panthers on October 8th. Then on October 10th, they play the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, just to turn around and play the Missouri State Bears on October 14th, Wednesday. So,
all right.
Playing an NBA schedule, dude.
So ultimately, this will not happen. Louisiana Tech obviously will not end up playing 20 games because either they're going to settle the lawsuit, they're going to get to switch conferences, and they'll play those conference opponents, or they'll be told, no, you stay here. You have to play the teams that you were initially scheduled to play.
Pretty much, yeah. But right now, they do have 20 games, so it's pretty interesting.
Hey, Louisiana Tech found a way on the show. That's all that matters. And all it took was them scheduling 20 opponents
in the upcoming year. Got to be our first
mention
of that team, right?
Probably. I think I gave them some love in my G5 breakdown last year, if I do say so myself.
Ah, yes, that's right.
I believe I showed some love to the Bulldogs. Are they the Bulldogs? Not really helping myself right now.
They are the Bulldogs.
Okay,
yes.
That's what I thought, No ball a little bit.
Good job, man.
Boy, yeah, it's flexing that I did a G5 breakdown and then not knowing the mascot of one of the teams that I showed love to. Awesome. Not exactly helping my case at the moment, but I was right. My brain helped me out there. All right, let's move on to some more important, we should say, show topics. SEC win totals already out there, already been released. We're already getting an idea of what the betting sites are saying about the SEC this season, who's the favorite, who should win 10 games, who's going to suck, all those good things. So what do we got, Kirby? Like, how do you want to do this? You just want to run down the list, or you want to start with teams projected the highest? We could even do a little guessing game as I lose my keyboard at the moment.
Come on, man. Get it together. We can just
trying.
go through the SEC.
Okay.
We can just go top down on it. So
All right, top down. Let's
starting
go.
off, again, first off, this is the second year in a row where no team is projected to win more than 10 games. The highest total is 9.5, and it belongs to both Texas and Georgia.
Was anybody projected to win more than 10 last year?
No, that was the cap last year. I believe it was Georgia, Texas, and maybe Alabama that had 9.5 projections last year. There were only 3 teams last year. So, again, wins are going to be hard to come by if you're in the SEC this year. So,
yeah, and first year of the 9-game conference schedule, so that throws some loops and everything. So interested to see how. I haven't even looked at the list, I'll be honest. So I'm interested to see where some of these teams settled out at.
It is worth noting that Georgia and Texas, 2 teams that had 9.5 win totals last year. Texas, obviously, the under hit. Georgia hit the over. I don't think Georgia, the under for win totals, has hit maybe in 2024. But other than that, Kirby Smart is pretty much a guaranteed 10-win season. So do with that what you will, bettors. Next on the list is Alabama at 8.5 wins. So
8.5.
Kind of an interesting thing to look at here. Basically, the projection, the ceiling for Alabama gambling wise is 9-3 or 8-4 in that hovering range, which honestly I don't think makes you a college football playoff team, which would put massive amounts of stress on Kalen DeBoer.
So I'm just kind of looking because over here on CBS Sports, they give the wins and losses that they're projecting right now. So Alabama at 9.5 wins for this upcoming season, and they have 2 losses. Georgia, one you could expect. That's been Georgia got them last year in the SEC championship game. Alabama got them in the regular season before that. It is at Alabama this year, but then the second loss is very surprising compared to the other games on this list of at Auburn being a loss. Maybe
interesting.
I guess they're expecting Alex Golish and the boys to have everything figured out and they're humming by the very end of the season, and it's just one of those times where Alabama rolls up to Jordan Hare and they get him. They get got in rivalry week, I suppose, but that's very interesting. Now, schedule, based on how I'm looking at it, really doesn't seem all that bad for Alabama this year.
No.
It's Vanderbilt at Missouri, Tennessee at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. Those are the conference opponents outside of Georgia and Auburn.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stems from the fact that you don't know what your quarterback's going to be in Austin
Yes.
Mack or Keelan Russell. They lost a lot of weapons on both sides of the football. They lost a lot of contributors. Kalen DeBoer teams traditionally at Alabama have been underwhelming in his first 2 seasons. So I think bettors are kind of more, or Vegas is a little bit more trepidatious. Texas A&M and LSU are also teams that received 8.5 win totals for the year. So
Interesting.
the Lane Kiffin train in LSU is supposed to get off to a pretty hot start. And again, Texas A&M is another one of these teams that excelled. What do you just made a fool?
So I scrolled down to LSU on this list because I wanted to see, all right, what are the wins and losses that they have on here? Alabama and Oklahoma, 2 losses. Yeah, checks out. Makes sense. At Clemson. Wait, they're not even at Clemson this year, are they?
No, they're hosting Clemson. I think you're looking at the 2025 regular season list.
I am. This is the one that was linked in the show notes.
No, there's another one linked. That's last year's link. But no, they haven't projected wins or losses this year so far.
Okay, well then disregard everything I just said about Alabama as well.
It's okay.
My apologies, everybody. I just thought this one that was linked in here was the one I was supposed to be looking at.
But no. So basically, Texas A&M and LSU are the 2 teams that also have 8.5 win projection total. So, I mean, that would be a massive disappointment for Mike Elko and a solid first year for Lane Kiffin.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Judging by these lists, though, there's not a team on the SEC will have 2 college football playoff teams, unless you're getting a 9-3 team in, which we haven't seen unless Clemson.
Right, and I mean, we'll see how everything shifts for the SEC, with a 9-game conference schedule, because I'd imagine that you are going to see some more teams that have 3 losses or even have 4 losses, but really that 3-loss mark to where, hey, are some of those 9-3 teams getting into the college football playoff? Because then that kind of shifts the standard of, recently what we've been saying is 10-2 is the mark. That's the floor. That's as bad as you can be if you really want to get into the college football playoff. We know this because South Carolina got left out in the 2 years 2 years ago for this exact reason of, hey, you were 9-3 despite how great you were to close the season. Just can't let a 9-3 team in. And so we'll see how this shifts and changes, because I think it's also worth noting that with the SEC moving to 9 conference games this year, it's also should be noted that the college football playoff is shifting their criteria as well for strength of schedule metrics.
Yeah.
And it's going to take into consideration of playing more conference games. So we'll see how all of that levels out. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's going to be more 9-3 teams. Maybe like best teams are going to be 10-2 probably. Like that might be your SEC champion.
The 2 teams on this list that are the most intriguing to me are Oklahoma and Ole Miss, who are each listed at 7.5 wins for the over/under.
See, this is why during the local hour last week when we were talking about Oklahoma, I think there's so much volatility with them.
There's a lot of volatility there.
7.5.
Well, it's interesting, too, because it feels like 2 teams that the media and analysts are fairly high on. Like, everyone expects Oklahoma's going to have a really good season coming off of a playoff appearance. Everyone loves Trinidad Chambliss and Keywan Lacey coming back for Ole Miss, and people are very high on that based on what Trinidad was able to do down the stretch for that team. So there's a lot of optimism from the media and from outsider perspectives, but from Vegas, there is not a lot of support here. I mean, If Oklahoma and Ole Miss win 9 games this year, that will be massive, massive exceeding of expectations for them.
I do think that Oklahoma is probably the team that I'm fading the most coming into this season. Like South Carolina, certainly one of those teams I'm open to fading this year, but I just wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. Like I don't want anything to do with them. I wouldn't put any money on them whatsoever just because I have no idea. For Oklahoma, like every time I envision the 2026 season for the Sooners this year, I just can't imagine it being better than what it was last year.
I don't know how
it's hard for me to find the areas in which Oklahoma, without a shadow of a doubt, got better. Like especially offensively. Like John Mateer, I think he is what he is. He's been playing football for so long now. I'm not sure that we're going to see this massive leap in improvement for John Mateer. Now I know that last year we dealt with a hand injury, and maybe that had to do with some of our performances last year and all of that. But I like every time we watch the film of John Mateer, I see the same things every single time, pre-injury, post-injury, whatever. So I don't see Oklahoma all of a sudden completely changing themselves offensively while also maintaining what they were defensively last year as well, because they lost some really key pieces on that defense as well. I know Venables is going to have those boys ready, and I can bank on the defense being strong, but when I think about their offense, man, I just can't see this massive jump forward for them that makes them a real contender in all of this, like a legitimate national title contender. I see it more of probably going to be worse than what you were last year.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to list off a handful of teams, and I want you to tell me which one sticks out to you. By the way, these are all 6.5 win totals, these next 5 teams.
Okay.
Florida, Missouri, Auburn, Tennessee, Vanderbilt.
Ooh, Missouri jumped out. No, read that list again, sorry.
Missouri, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Vanderbilt.
See, Vanderbilt at 6.5, a little interesting for me. I thought that'd be a little lower, if I'm being honest.
I think that looking at this, you go, okay, Florida, Auburn, new head coaches, that's fine.
Yeah,
Missouri, not a lot of expectations there. Vanderbilt just lost a generational quarterback. I get it. Tennessee's kind of the program that I'm looking at where we're not far removed from this team having college football playoff aspirations. We're not far removed from this team having a college football playoff berth. And now 6.5 is the over-under total for Josh Heupel in this year. Like, obviously, I think that we're kind of believing that Josh Heupel's a good coach, that he's the right guy for the job. But from where expectations were around this program from the 2022 to the 2024 period,
right,
they have gone significantly downhill in the meantime.
Yeah, and I think that, last year I think a lot of us, or at least us on the show, kind of had the expectation of maybe this is the year where Tennessee is going to take a little bit of a step back and then they'll be right back in the running again. I think that last year the addition of Joey Aguilar allowed them to maintain kind of where they were the year that they made the playoff, and they just kind of remained as a contending SEC team. Now, they didn't make a playoff, so they kind of did take a step back, but they were still a tough out. I mean, they were a tough team to beat every single weekend. Georgia knows just as good as anybody, and I think this is the year where you're really going to feel the repercussions of kind of the players that you've lost, the turnover that you've had in the coaching rooms, losing Joey Aguilar this year. Like, I think this is the year where you feel it in the quarterback room. But I think that, and you guys will hear it whenever we release our film study. Brooks went and broke down George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, kind of explaining the future of this position for Tennessee. And no matter who you go with, whether it's McIntyre or whether it's Faison Brandon, like you're going to have growing pains with one or the other, because one is a true freshman who just got on campus recently, and if he's a first-year starter, that being Faison Brandon, we know how that goes. Your first year, especially a freshman starter in the SEC, there's going to be growing pains there. Everything's not going to look pretty. George McIntyre would be a first-year starter. He had issues turning the ball over in high school. Mechanics a little wonky. Like, there's just going to be some sort of growing pain no matter who you tab as a starting quarterback this season. So I think that Tennessee, that kind of makes sense, but I also think Josh Heupel's a good enough coach to where I don't think they get put in a position where they're staring down 6-6, in my opinion. Now, that might happen this year, but I see them more as like they'll be 8-4, or 7-5 at the very worst.
Yeah, I mean, this team was a couple of bounces away from, you could argue, maybe they would have gone 10-2, or maybe they would have found a way to muster up 9-3. I mean, you're a missed field goal away from beating Georgia, the eventual SEC champion in a college football playoff team last year. So there's a lot to be optimistic about around Josh Heupel. I don't think that the light has fully worn off yet, but it is daunting to look at where the program is now to where it was, just 3 or 4 years ago and go, man, they have not excelled or advanced in any ways. The next 4 teams on our list, Kentucky's at 5.5 wins. I don't think there's a lot to take there. First-year head coach.
I have no idea what they're going to look like.
Exactly. First-year head coach Will Stein. And then the bottom feeders, obviously, Arkansas, Mississippi State. Unfortunate for both of them. But
what are they at? 4.5?
4.5 each. So, that's win all of your non-con games and maybe sneak in a conference win or 2 here or there. So that's kind of where things are for them. South Carolina at 5.5 wins for me is kind of it's going to be a tough year for Shane Beamer. I mean, and again, they came into 2025 with college football playoff hopes, rightfully so. Had a great quarterback in Lenore Sellers, had a good core. Obviously, the train went off the tracks there. And this year, it still feels like you're trying to get that pre-momentum, pre-college football playoff hype from Shane Beamer. He's promising that they'll be competing for one in November. He's telling all these things. There's a lot of optimism around that room. And there's just no momentum in Vegas. It's even to the point where media analysts have kind of weaned off saying South Carolina's a sleeper team. Some of them are still high on them just because of the talent that you jumped off the roster, like Nick Harbor, great player, Dylan Stewart, Lenore Sellers, of course, all these guys like, you think that they'll be able to talent their way to some wins, but 5.5 is a very damning projection.
Yeah, and if that tells me anything, that also tells me that Vegas views them the same way that we do. Of it could go either way. And therefore, that is a tough decision for people to make about South Carolina. Like, I just wouldn't touch that because I don't know. This is a team, guys, that won one SEC game last year. They had 4 wins last season with the talent that they're bringing back this year. Now, they made some transfer portal additions. The Pete guy should be good for the offensive line, but that's also a room that they have completely reworked. The offensive line coach gone. Majority of the players on that offensive line outside like Josiah Thompson, those guys are gone. So even though it was bad last year, you still don't know if it got better. And Josiah Thompson isn't even available this year. We found out that he's going to be out for the entire year with an injury. So just don't know what to think about them. I have no idea, and I don't want to put any projections on them other than the fact of I don't think they're going to magically turn this around this year. I think that, if you do end up with a 9-3 season or like an 8-4 this year for South Carolina, I'd be like, all right, good job, Shane Beamer. I don't know if it's good enough to keep your job, but good job.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing to note about it is that there's such a wide range of projections for this team. You've got Vegas, and you've got some guys like us basically saying that this isn't really going to be a good football team. They're going to be a very middling of the road, struggling to get bowl eligible. And meanwhile, your head coach is out here saying that you'll be competing for a playoff spot. There's some media analysts that really still like you. There's some that want to believe Lenore Sellers is the number 1 quarterback in next year's class. Like, there's such a wide array of that I think it models the volatility that this team has, but at the end of the day, when there's so much volatility, I don't know how you're going to measure success. Because like you said, if they go 8-4, well, that's better than I think we would have all kind of expected them to do or right on par with that. But at the same point, that's still falling short of the expectations that you've set in your own room.
Yeah.
That's still falling short of the expectations that some media analysts have bought into. So I don't know what to think about for Shane Beamer in South Carolina.
I think the best thing, South Carolina, Shane Beamer, I think the best thing that they could do this offseason is just be quiet. Like, just
shut up.
Not completely shut up. All right, that's not what I'm saying. But hey, maybe we don't feed the media that we expect to win a national title this year. Maybe we don't feed everybody that we expect to be a college football playoff team, because I think that everybody by now knows that's what the expectation for Shane Beamer at least is at South Carolina. I'm sure those players, that's what they believe in. But maybe last year it was a little bit of players started drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. You know, you went on that hot streak in 2024, 9-3, had you in the playoff consideration, ultimately don't make it, felt like you had a chip on your shoulder, and then it just didn't unfold into anything. Like, I think it just crashed and burned very quickly. And I think that maybe you just kind of coast throughout the offseason, don't give any headlines. The less people talk about you, that might be better for you. I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with them, because this whole rebuilding the hype train and we're going to speed it all up again and everybody's going to be talking about us. And, hey, Lenore Sellers, generational talent, he's still here. And Dylan Stewart, one of the best edge rushers this school's ever had outside of Jadeveon Clowney. Like, all those things. Nick Harbor, hey, he's only playing football again. He's not running track anymore, despite how he could be an Olympic star in track. Like, instead of doing all of that and putting all of this massive spotlight on you, maybe you just go under the radar, because that seems to be where Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks thrive best.
I will say this, for the sake of Shane Beamer's job security in that season, they better start 3-0. You start the year with Kent State and Towson. That should be 2 wins.
Yeah.
Your SEC opener is at home against Mississippi State. If you're not 3-0 by the time you roll into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, your season is already in deep, deep trouble, because it does not get any easier after that. Alabama, Kentucky, at Florida, Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, at Arkansas, Georgia, at Clemson. Like, 3-0 is mandatory for this team coming into the 2026 season.
That's what they better do, huh?
They better.
How about Notre Dame better go undefeated this year? I don't think that's too much to ask.
In the regular season, or like the whole?
No, regular season.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I guess they kind of do have to go undefeated throughout the year. Like, maybe they do have to go 16-0, because if you go undefeated in the regular season, bless you, by the way, that means you got to run the gauntlet in the playoff too. And I think that's the expectation for the Irish this year of, hey, CJ Carr, like, those guys look like a national title team. I think that's kind of the expectation. So maybe I am saying that they have to go 16-0.
I think they have to go undefeated just for the purpose of, if you go 11-1, like, I don't know what you're going to have on your schedule to hang your hat on to make it in. Like, you were 10-2 last year with all of your important games being lost. It's like they only have really one major important game this year.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So I don't know how you can get 11-1 if your loss is either. Now, maybe you've won that important game and you pulled the classic Marcus Freeman, oh, we lost to an unranked team or a non-Power 4 team. But other than that, like, I think 12-0 is kind of what you have to do just to get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Bare minimum, they're one tough game, Miami, by the way.
There's no USC this year, is there?
Nope. They backed that one is not a thing this year.
Yeah, so
the one game that I could be like, you could go 11-1 Notre Dame. You better go 11-1. How about I phrase it that way? Because me saying like you better go 16-0, I don't like the sound of that. I think that's a little too much to ask. You better go 11-1, because outside of Miami, Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, Purdue, North Carolina, Stanford, BYU, Navy, Boston College, SMU, Syracuse. There's not another game on that schedule where I look at it and say Notre Dame could lose that game and I'd be okay with it.
Notre Dame's strength of schedule has consistently revolved around, hey, do we get at least 1 or 2 ACC teams that are inside the top 15 when we play them? Do we get to beat up on a top 25 Pitt this year, or what was it, Army a few years back, of like, hey,
yeah, you backdoor your way into a ranked matchup, basically.
Yeah, that's what you have to hope for if you're Notre Dame. I'll tell you another team that better do something this year. Kalen DeBoer better make the college football playoff.
That's it?
And that's an easy baseline expectation, but that is one of the harder things to do, and we've seen it. He's already missed it once. They didn't barely make it in last year, but there were some arguments as to whether or not they were deserving of it, as they had.
Oh, yeah. Especially after the SEC title game?
Correct, and they had 3 losses at the time. So, I mean, there were some very valid arguments for that, but you have to do it this year.
So I'll do a little call to action to chat right now, because I would like any Alabama fans listening to this right now. Like, what if you guys don't make a playoff this year? Like, what if that does happen? Are you guys crucifying Kalen DeBoer? Are you officially like out on him? Are you done with him? Like, let's say you go 9-3, you barely miss a playoff. You were the 14th ranked team in the country at the end of the regular season. You miss a playoff, but the only reason why you miss a playoff is because, like, let's say this scenario happens. It's because Keelan Russell was your starting quarterback, and he's just a young football player that had some moments and maybe in some big moments late in the fourth quarter. He just wasn't quite able to deliver in those moments, and it led to 3 losses, and that's why you missed the college football playoff. But in the midst of all of that, Keelan Russell looks really good. He looks like the future at the position. Like, he has all the tools in the world to bring a national title to Tuscaloosa. Like, if that's the trade-off, are we okay with keeping DeBoer? Are we okay with the overall season? Now, if it's like Austin Mack and we're just watching Keelan Russell sit on the bench and it looks like we're going to miss a playoff, I know there's going to be some vitriol there. I know Alabama fans are probably going to feel some type of way, but if it's because Keelan Russell was just a first-year starter and a young football player, can you really be that mad about it?
Well, here's my thing, and you've seen Alabama's schedule. What 3 losses are on there that Alabama fans will be able to stomach? Like, if they lose to Georgia in Tuscaloosa,
I think there's some mutual respect there.
I think that's one where, like, I hate losing to that team, but I can at least understand it. I don't think they'll be able to accept another Tennessee loss in Knoxville. They think they're better than that team this year.
Should be better than that team.
Texas A&M, probably going to be a tough one to stomach. You think you're better than that team. At LSU, maybe Lane Kiffin's first year. We know Death Valley is a hard place to play.
No doubt.
But other than that, like, Auburn, you're not going to be happy if you lose to Auburn, especially if losing to Auburn is what keeps you out of the playoff.
Oh, no.
Florida State, don't let that happen again. South Carolina, you flirt. Like, I don't think that there's a world where you can look at 9-3 and go, all right, there's 3 losses on there that I'm, as an Alabama fan, am okay with. And especially, unfortunately, Alabama has this unfortunate realistic scenario for them is that you have currently 2 viable quarterbacks. So if one quarterback isn't playing lights out of this world, it's automatically going to be, well, why isn't the other guy starting? We've seen this firsthand in most schools where if one quarterback barely wins out a job, or even if they've the clear-cut starter, if they're not playing well, it automatically becomes, we need to see this guy. The backup's going to play better than the starter. We need that. So, Kalen DeBoer better make the college football playoff this year so you can avoid all of these narratives being spun around you.
Yeah, and I think that one clarification on that should be of – Even if Austin Mack or Keelan Russell looks great, ultimately I think it matters of, did our offensive line improve? Were we able to run the ball this year? Like, those things of, like, are the same issues that we had the season prior still occurring issues on this football team? Then that obviously results and lays on the hands of Kalen DeBoer of, this is a clear issue and those things did not get fixed or addressed in the offseason. Then you have a bigger discussion. Speaking of offense and issues, Oklahoma better find some consistency on offense. I know we just talked about this a little bit in our SEC win totals discussion, but there has to be something. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is, even if it's just John Mateer himself, something on this offense has to be consistent. It has to be something that you can routinely rely on throughout the season, or else you're going to be in the same predicament that you were this past year where the offense is just stagnant and you're consistently relying on your defense to win you every single game. Like, hey, we might score 17 points. Defense, you got to hold them to 13 or 10. You can't do that again this year, in my opinion. It's got to be, we can at least run the ball for 5 yards. Like, at the very least, like consistently gaining 5 yards in the run game or consistent in the passing game. Somewhere, like something about this offense. Offensive line play. Get some consistent offensive line play for, like, at the very least. But something about this offense has to be consistent, or else I think they're doom and gloom this year a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that about how Oklahoma needs to find some consistency here, and that revolves around what John Mateer can do. We trust the defense. We believe that is a well-known commodity at this point. Might be one of the best defenses in the SEC. Find some consistency there. Moving over to the Big Ten, USC better be 7-1. I'm not demanding undefeated. USC better be 7-1 by the time they play Ohio State. Let me read you the schedule leading up to that. San Jose State, Fresno State, Louisiana, Rutgers, nothing.
All right.
Oregon, Washington, Penn State, Wisconsin.
Oregon. That'd be the loss.
And if you beat Oregon, you get one mulligan. Mm-hmm. But you should be 7-1 by the time you host Ohio State on Halloween night. I think that is a very fair expectation for Lincoln Riley. I think we're at a point now where it's kind of, hey, you're going to be what you're going to be based on this season, because it's been somewhat disappointing thus far. I know that the 2026 class coming in is very exciting. There's a lot of players in this class alone that are very talented once they develop, but you should demand 7-1 at worst by the time you roll to Tuscaloosa.
You know, I think it's kind of unfortunate that it was just this past offseason that Lincoln Riley and his staff like really hunkered down on the recruiting trail, and they got the best class in the country, and they really loaded up on blue chip prospects, and they got this great class. and it's a very promising group of players. But like, is Lincoln Riley going to be able to survive long enough for those players to like be ready and able to be the full-time contributors? Like, I think that Mark Bowman is one of these players that is a day one contributor for them. I think he's going to be a factor. But like for the rest of this class and all these other players, like, it's great that you have your roster built off of this and you have something laid out for the future. But how much of a future more does Lincoln Riley have of missing the playoff and having a 9-3 season or an 8-4 season? Like, what is that? Like, you lost your quarterback of the future as well in Hassan Longstreet. Like, where are things going to be? Is Lincoln Riley going to be able to outstay this awesome recruiting class that he recruited? Like, that's the issue I see with them right now. So, like, I think that they could have a great season this year. I think it's reasonable to ask them to be 7-1 over that 8-game stretch. But I think there's also a lot of unknowns with that roster of like just how young are they going to be? Like, who are they really relying on? Are they really just banking on maybe 2027 being their year or 2028? Like, where are things at with them right now? So that's my biggest question with them. But I'll stick in the Big Ten with you. We talked about Oregon briefly there. Oregon better get better. Or Oregon, I put better get better. Or that's how you should say it, I guess. Oregon better get better in big games, period. Yeah. Dan Lanning, it's got to get fixed, man. I know that we won multiple playoff games last year. One of those was James Madison. Okay, so I don't know if that fits in this category. In fact, it doesn't. Beat Texas Tech. We'll count that one. You know, it's a quarterfinal matchup in the college football playoff. But Indiana last year, biggest game of the regular season, I would say. You lost that one. You end up losing to them again in the playoffs in brutal fashion. I just think that we have to get better in those moments. Now, like the Iowa game ended up being a huge win for you, but if we're going to win a national title, if we're going to be that guy out there at Eugene, we just have to get better in big games, and specifically in the playoffs. But we just have to get better there. And where it feels like we're inching closer, we're getting shots at it, and we're just like working our way through the growing pains, and eventually there's not going to be any more, and we'll be the ones hoisting the national title trophy at the end of the year. But got to get better in those games because for me, like the way you lost to Indiana last year in the playoffs is just inexcusable. I don't think that's where we should be at as Oregon, like this many years into the Dan Lanning experience. I think that we should be better in those moments. We shouldn't be collapsing within the first quarter and this game being done before halftime even arrives. It shouldn't be that way in my opinion. So just got to get better in big games.
Yeah, and I think it's not only getting better in big games, finding ways to not embarrass yourself in big games. Like, obviously losing the big game is tough. Getting absolutely smoked in back-to-back college football playoff exits is what's really, really tough for Oregon and Dan Lanning. So I think that's what also needs to get better. I left this one blank because I need your help finishing it.
All right.
Florida State better finish blank by the end of the season. And I'm just talking pure record. I don't know what gets Mike Norvell to 2027. I don't know what would be deemed a successful season for that. I don't know what's an attainable season for that. I mean, you could demand being undefeated by the time you play Alabama in week 3 because SMU's not an automatic win. But I don't know if that's a reason, even a demand that even is worth making. Like, I don't know what to make of Florida State to deem this team successful. You have Alabama, Virginia, Louisville, Miami, Clemson, Boston College, Pittsburgh, NC State, Florida. I can fathom them winning all of these games individually. I don't know. I can also fathom losing all these games individually.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they're going to fall on that. It's a coin flip either way for me.
Bowl eligible? Is that what you have to do? Is that what we're talking about with Mike Norvell? Is that even good enough? I have no idea. Like, all I know about Florida State right now is that it's gotten bad enough down there where people just don't care about football right now. And they probably won't care until Mike Norvell is no longer there, until they know for a fact things are changing. We're changing things completely. He's gone. Like, I think that's what it would take. Like, you're losing interest from fans, diehard fans.
Yeah, and I've never seen a coach or a team that is more dependent on things going right, and when things go wrong, they just turn into absolute nuclear catastrophes. Florida State was a top 10 team last year, Jonathan. Florida State was ranked inside the top 10 last season for a brief moment of time. Now, they lose to Virginia in double overtime and immediately goes downhill. Florida State's undefeated, loses Jordan Travis, controversially left out of the college football playoff, immediately goes downhill, lose 63-3 to Georgia. Like, it's either going really, really good for Mike Norvell or it's absolutely horrible. I think you need to find a way to make sure it goes as good for as long as you can. Because, hey, look, Say you do it again. Say you beat Alabama. Say you're 3-0 by the time you leave Tuscaloosa. It's Central Arkansas. There you're 4-0, and maybe you get a get-back game against Virginia at home after that. I mean, I don't know what to demand for this team.
Chad is asking who the starting quarterback for Florida State is this season. It looks like it is going to be Ashton Daniels. I think that's an upgrade from what you had last year, I would say. I know that Thomas Castellanos had some great moments last year, but I would say that Ashton Daniels provides maybe a little bit more upside. Certainly looks more the part of a college quarterback than I would say Castellanos did. But overall with this team, I still just – you're irrelevant. You're irrelevant right now. You're not one of these teams that we have to talk about unless someone like Kirby wants to say, hey, like, what do we expect from this year? Nothing. I don't expect anything from them this year. I think they're just kind of getting through the dark hours of all of this, and they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel just yet. But every passing game this season, I think they'll start seeing it. Ohio State better see a year 2 jump in Julian Sayin. That's my biggest thing for Ohio State this year. I've talked about their defense a lot, lost some really good football players, but that's why I think it ultimately resides on how much better does Julian Sayin get this year? How much development do we see from him? Because I think the offense is going to have to be better. Not that the offense was bad last year, but I think when they were matched up against some really good teams, some playoff contending teams, you saw the issues with it. You saw the inconsistency with the offense. It all relies on like how much better does number 10 get? And, like, how much more can we get out of Jeremiah Smith because Julian Sayin got this much better this year? Like, I think the defense will always remain solid at Ohio State. It's never going to be bad, but I think there are years where you kind of have to say, probably going to have to rely on the offense a little bit more this year. I think that's one of those years for them.
I mean, I don't think that defense gets enough credit for how generational it was. They didn't allow 20 points in a game. I know Miami scored 20 points, but 7 of those points were off a pick 6. That's not the defense's fault. Like, that defense was – I'm not going to say generational, but about as good as you can demand a college football defense to be. I think it's fair to assume that they take a step back in 2026. That's just the natural way things go. When that happens, you need to take a step forward on offense. So it's not unfair to demand and say Julian Sayin better have some progression in year 2, especially with the fact that you're going to be losing what we believe is a first-round receiver in Carnell Tate. Now, Jeremiah Smith is still on the roster. They still have, the next reincarnation of Julio Jones and all those things that he's being tabbed out to be right now, and they're going to have a very talented offensive line and running back room. He better get better. You're absolutely right.
Some people say Malachi Toney is better.
Yeah, well.
Some people. Not me.
I'm not here to
make
that
Not you. Some people say Malachi Toney might be better.
I'm not here to make that argument. I have 2 more. The one other one is, and I don't even know if this is the bottom line. Texas better win a playoff game this year.
God dang it. I have it as Texas better be one of the best offenses in college football.
That's fair.
That is the bar. That is what it should be. It is year 2 of Arch Manning. We have Steve Sarkisian calling the plays, one of the best offensive minds, mini Deem in college football. We got Cam Coleman. We got Ryan Wingo. We got Hollywood Smothers out of the portal. We think the offensive line is going to be better this year. You better be one of the best offenses in college football. I don't care what the defense looks like, okay? Will Muschamp going to do his thing. You got some really good players over there. We know this. We know how Texas recruits at the high school level. We know what you do in the transfer portal. We know you have good football players over there. But the entire expectation of this year's Texas team better be, you don't want to see our offense any Saturday because we're probably going to hang 40 on you. That's how this should look, in my opinion. That's how fearful you should be of Texas's offense this year because that's what you've invested in this. That's what you've tried to construct of, hey, we're going to make everything we can out of the final year of Arch Manning being our starting quarterback. Well, you better make it count, and it better be the tune of averaging 40 points per game.
Yeah, and I think it's also completely fair to demand that, but at the same point, this team and this fan base, this group of boosters, everyone has put in tons of resources to assemble this roster. If it does not result in one singular playoff win, like that is the absolute baseline that you have to have this year, I think there are going to be some serious questions about Steve Sarkisian's job stability there.
Oh, sure.
He's not going to get fired if you go, if you're a first-round exit. There will be talks of it if you go 9-3 and miss the playoffs again.
100%.
With all the chips that you put in this year, yeah, absolutely. But if you have to win at least one playoff game for there to even be, give Sark another chance.
All right, my final team. And because I don't really know what to expect of this football team other than the fact I think they're going to at least look better, Florida better looked more polished this year. That's just all I ask. Of like what I would expect from Florida this season, just look more polished. There shouldn't be these moments of like, WTF is Florida doing right now? Why do they have 15 players on the football field right now on the punt return unit? Like, just look like a polished team because they've always looked the part on paper. You look at the roster, they got great players. They got great skill players. They got great running backs, offensive line. Like last year, people were saying that might be the best offensive line in the SEC. They've always looked the part. But if you just kind of look more polished, it would be a better product. It would be a much better football team. I think Summerall can definitely deliver that this year, but I don't care what the record is. I don't care if they're 10-2 or 7-5 or whatever. Just look like a more polished football team because there's too much talent on that roster for it to be wasted just because we have too many mishaps or we're not coaching good enough or we don't have everything in order. We don't know what we're doing. It shouldn't be that. It should never be that. That's all I ask of them.
That's a fair one. My final, your team better do this. Texas Tech better be right about their high school recruits.
Ooh, man.
They have put a lot of resources in, and it's been a rather interesting style of recruitment around Texas Tech. It's not traditionally a school that you look at and think powerhouse, college football recruiting dominance. They've been throwing money around, and it's been working out for them. Now, there's been some questions as to how the talent evaluation has been done. I think there's a lot of, eyebrow raising done at Felix Ojo right now. I think that some people are suspicious as to whether or not LaDainian Guyton was worth all the money that was placed towards him. However, if they're right about that, that's going to be a very dangerous team. They should win the Big 12 again next year. They should be in the college football playoff again. But if they're wrong, it's going to be a lot of money being set on fire for them.
Yeah, and I mean, you've already talked about it. There's a lot of money invested in some specific players, and we did the thing where we read the article about people already don't believe in Felix Ojo, and that was your most expensive player probably this year. Like, don't know the overall metrics of any of this or what was actually being paid to these players, but there's some already questionable location of assets in some of these high school football players. Like, I don't know what LaDainian Guyton got, but this is a reclass kid who was supposed to be in the 2027 classes in the 2026 class that you paid a whole lot of money to come be a Texas Tech Raider, and it's probably going to have to be a day one starter for you and someone that you rely on consistently. And I don't know if we're ready for that. I don't know if supposed to be high school senior LaDainian Guyton is ready to be a Big 12 starter right now. I just don't know, but you pay him like he's supposed to be, and they still had 20 transfers that they took, so they're certainly creating some sort of balance, it seems, in the two philosophies that they have. But when you do that, if one side of the balance doesn't hit like you think it's supposed to, then yeah, it's going to be trouble. And I already don't think that Texas Tech is going to be as good as they were last year. I just think that their defense was so good last year, so good, and they lost majority of those productionists that they had. I just don't, or producers, I should say, from that side of the ball, where I don't think it's capable for them to continue what they did last year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see. But you're right. I mean, it's worth calling in question, and like it better hit. Like at least the top players that you paid, the top recruits that you got, those guys better be good.
Yeah. If you're going to spend that money, you have those expectations. So,
well, speaking of putting expectations on players, there's a player in this year's NFL draft class that people have massive expectations for, like
yes,
generational talent expectations for, and you don't necessarily agree with it. You're kind of like, stay away.
Yeah, so I want to first reiterate this and make this very clear before I give this take, that I think Jeremiah Love is a very, 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 very good running back. I think Jeremiah Love will probably be a successful running back in the NFL. I think Jeremiah Love is a solid prospect. I have seen, and this is falling victim to, like we said, spring hot takes and all these things and the sensationalism. I have seen a lot of takes on Jeremiah Love of a generational prospect, a game changer, a game breaker, and I want to pump the brakes on that. And your segment on Drew Aller inspired me on this, of looking back at how they perform against top 10 teams.
Yes.
Jeremiah Love, in his 3 seasons with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, played 6 teams that were ranked inside the top 10. In those 6 games, he averaged a total of 44 rushing yards. Not very good. He had one 100-yard performance, which was against Indiana in the college football playoff. He finished that game with 108 rushing yards thanks to a 98-yard run. So the overall production against these top-end programs has not been very good. Now, I know the counterpoint to this will be he was banged up in a lot of those games. He wasn't fully healthy, and that's totally fine. I'm totally agreeing with that. But if that's the case, are we not concerned about his injuries? I mean, I feel like half the time Jeremiah Love was on a roster, it was, he's not very healthy right now, or he's not getting adequate carries. I'm not confident enough to put a running back who has had 40 games under his belt in the collegiate level and has only 3 carries, 3 games where he has 20 or more carries. I don't think that there's this reality that we're looking at Jeremiah Love of the production doesn't necessarily match up to the height. And we've seen stuff like this before. If you go back and you pull James Cook's numbers from college, he wasn't this star-studded, oh my God, look at this guy type of back. It was the talent potential is there, and he could be a bell cow back in the NFL moving forward. I'm just hesitant to stamp Jeremiah Love as this because injury concerns, performances against top 10 teams, things like that. So I'm declaring that we should probably pump the brakes on Jeremiah Love being this generational, world-breaking prospect. I think Jeremiah Love is a home run hitter that if he hits 1 or 2 a game on you, you're going to lose. However, he's not batting 1,000 in those games. So just be cautious of that.
Yeah, and I think that Jeremiah Love's NFL career is going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to be, man, we really missed out on getting to watch something special at the college level. Like if he goes out to the league and he just absolutely dominates and he is this generational talent that people want to label him as, it's going to be, man, Notre Dame didn't get everything that they could have out of that guy. They could have really benefited from getting healthy, more carries, Jeremiah Love in college. Like that could have changed seasons for them probably. Or it's going to be, oh, the signs were there and we didn't pay attention to them. We probably should have. Probably shouldn't have drafted that guy in the top 10 or top 15. It's going to be one of those 2 things, in my opinion. I think it is going to be that career arc for him in the NFL. But like the way, and like there's so much unknown about him that I don't know where I want to stand on this because I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic. Like if my team were to draft Jeremiah Love, like if I was a fan of any NFL team, I'd be like, okay, that's a really good player. I'm not going to be exactly mad about it. But when I see things like this from Matt Miller, where he says you can make any argument, you can make an argument he's on par with Saquon and Bijan, he's above Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's above Ashton Jeanty.
Guys.
That's where I'm like, whoa. We're doing a whole lot of projecting here. We're saying something about a player that we really don't have all the answers to, and we're comparing him to the best in the sport right now, like Bijan Robinson, Saquon, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and already tabbing him better than Ashton Jeanty, who could have won of Heisman 2 years ago for having a generational season.
Yeah, and again, I'm not calling him a stat padding merchant or that all of his best games came against bad teams. He had some strong performances. The 200 yards against USC was incredible. He had a good showing against Texas A&M. Like he's had strong moments. I have confidence that you know what? I think he will kind of be a Reggie Bush type figure, where he's labeled as this generational talent. His college highlights will live on forever and, legendary stats. Maybe not to the level of what Reggie was, but I think when you get to the NFL, it'll kind of be, it's not as exciting as we hoped it would be. There'll be flashes. There'll be moments where we go, oh, my God, this was the guy we saw in college, but I don't think that Jeremiah Love is going to be a superstar in the NFL.
Certainly not worth saying he's on the level of the greatest in the sport at the position right now. Certainly not at that level. Like we need more time. I need to see more. Because when I do see Jeremiah Love play, even if it is in limited action where he's getting 12 carries in a game, it looks great. It looks like everything that is promised about him. But I just need to see more. I just have so many questions about it. There's so many unknowns about him. Just don't want to fully jump on board with this one right now. So I agree with you. I think there is some hesitancy with this one, rightfully so. Now there's this. Do you want to hit on this real quick? The most hated college football player list.
I thought this was an interesting trip down.
Who put this together?
So Bro Bible did a list of the 11.
Bro Bible.
Yeah,
all right.
It's again just a fun little quick reminder.
Off season.
11 most hated college football players since the year 2000. Number 11 is Terrell Pryor at Ohio State. I don't remember him being hated. I remember that was, hey, you're the Ohio State starting quarterback and the team's good. Maybe you're a little more of a polarizing figure, but I don't remember ever. I was young at the time as well.
I feel like maybe Terrell Pryor is falling victim to the I hate Ohio State.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I don't know that I was ever I hate Terrell Pryor.
Now, this is someone who doesn't necessarily stick out in my mind. I was not conscious for this era of football. Kellen Winslow Jr. at Miami. I could see it, though. The U, a boisterous tight end. It makes sense as to why he would be on this list. Number 9, Vontaze Burfict. I get this one.
That would be more like for NFL days, probably.
Well, he was also a problem at Arizona State. And it transitioned over.
Fair.
And obviously, what he did to Antonio Brown and then his time with the Raiders.
The hatred aged well.
It aged very well. Number 8 on this list, Shedeur Sanders. Understandable.
Yeah. I understand it.
Number 7, Maurice Clarett. The Ohio State running back, played for 1 season. This was like right when I started paying attention to college football, or kind of understanding it. Maurice Clarett, very interesting story. There's a very good 30 for 30 on him, actually. If you saw that, you go, okay, I understand.
Okay.
That. Number 6 is LeGarrette Blount. Another one where it's like, I think the moment made you more hated than anything.
For sure.
Knocking out the Boise State player. I don't remember outside of that LeGarrette Blount being like a hated figure. I could be completely misremembering this. I was like 6 when he was in college.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5. Felt like this could have been number 1. Baker Mayfield.
Oh, yeah. That could have been number 1. I think some people – now, I think that there's been – I think he's aged better in the league. I think that –
oh, for sure.
He's become a much more likable person in the league. So I don't know that people would say this now, but Baker Mayfield, fresh out of college, there's a lot of people that would have put him at the top of this list.
Baker Mayfield in college was one of the most hated players. Speaking of, number 4, Johnny Manziel, kind of low in my opinion.
It depended on your age. How old were you when this happened? I think that's really what it boils down to, because for people that were mine and your age during that time, it was, this guy's awesome. I can't get enough of this.
I want to be just like him.
Yeah, I want to be like Johnny Football. And then if you were the other demographic of our dads, it's probably like, this is Bush League. Get this out of here.
Yeah.
This guy sucks. What a tool.
Another very polarizing player. Number 3, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Understandably, don't need much explanation on that one. Number 2, another guy who I would say has aged very, very gracefully on this list, Jameis Winston.
Oh, people love Jameis now.
I mean, if I remember the 2013 to 2014 run, people hated Jameis with the crab legs and the standing on the table and yelling something, and just not a very and it's Florida State, and Jimbo Fisher wasn't very it was very easy to hate Jameis Winston at that time.
Jameis has found his role perfectly in the NFL, where the career didn't go the way that he had wanted it to, obviously. Being a backup quarterback in the league, that's obviously not what he wanted out of this, I'm sure. But he has found the right path for himself where, hey, I'm a backup quarterback, but I'm going to be the most liked person on this team, and nobody's not going to like me. And I'm just going to give epic mic moments and always deliver in these moments every single time and just be an entertaining person.
Now, number 1 on this list, I kind of understand it. I completely disagree with it, though. Number 1, and keep in mind, this is just when he was playing in college, Tim Tebow.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Now, I get it that he was sort of a polarizing figure for, his kneeling after scoring, and he was the quarterback on one of the more hated teams. That Florida team is obviously notorious and only becomes more and more notorious. He won a lot. He was successful. I remember growing up hating Tim Tebow, but I don't think that was me hating the person.
It's hating
Tim
Tebow. For that perspective, it's I'm hating one of my biggest rivals having a really good player. That's what you're hating about that, in my opinion. I feel like the hatred towards Tim Tebow is probably, I hate you because there's no way that you're actually this good of a person, that you're this good of a guy. There's no way that that's real, so I hate you because I think you're putting on an act and you're just continuing to lie to all of us. There's no way you're that down to earth and that good of a human, so I'm going to hate you because I don't think that's possible. You're too likable, so I hate you.
Yeah, I think that's the exact reason. I disagree with it, but who do you think who was the most hated player in college football last year?
Last year?
Got to be Pavia, right?
Pavia definitely turned into that. People were certainly sick of it. I can't really think of anybody else.
I'd go Pavia. But, I mean, we've already taken up too much of the local hours time.
We have.
So we probably need
we have some great topics that we're going to hit here in a little bit. We'll see you on the other side as we head into our local hour.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
I see the jokes. The local 45. All right, we see them. Okay, but I promise we're going to deliver some great segments here in the Talk That Dog Hour. We're going to get some shout-outs to some other UGA athletics. I know that we predominantly talk about football. Brooks loves to only talk about football. In fact, he prefers not to talk about one because he feels like he's forbidden from talking about.
He's not here tonight, so.
But he's not here, so we can do it. We're allowing it. So going to give some shout-outs there. We created our own Georgia March Madness bracket. Not going to tell you what the exact topic is, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that. Some good debates, some good conversations. We're going to carry over a question that we had from one of our Discord Q&As, create your perfect UGA team by room. So every year that Kirby Smart has been here, take the entire roster of those linebackers and put them on a team and create the best roster. So me and Kirby both have created our own list. We're going to go through some spring questions. Spring football starting up this week, Christian, in Athens. Fun. We got some pro day this week. We got spring practice. We got a presser tomorrow. So we're going to have Kirby off a presser tomorrow. So we'll have those notes for you. So all good things, all good signs that football is getting closer. And then Kirby's going to give us some running backs who came close to reaching a certain milestone but just couldn't quite do it. Maybe someone on this roster can this year. But first, basketball and baseball. Some massive shout-outs deserved from this past weekend.
It feels so – I was a college student from what you could say is the absolute peak of Georgia football, the two-time back-to-back national title, the undefeated season 2023, 2024 not so much, but I remember vividly during all of those years that the season would end and it's kind of like you just sit back and go, all right, well, we got to wait till spring practice starts and we got to wait till August for the season. It does not feel that way anymore. It's like there is actually sports to be excited. Yeah. The women's basketball team is also in the tournament.
In the tournament
so,
this year.
There are multiple things to at least be, even if football is the only thing you care about, there are other things on Georgia athletics to at least be tuning into, to at least be interested in. So that feels great.
So I grew up going to more basketball and baseball games than I did football games. I routinely went to basketball games and I routinely went to baseball games as well. So when I was a student at the University of Georgia, despite basketball not being so great, those being majority Tom Crean years, I still went to basketball games. You know, especially when Anthony Edwards was a freshman, I went to a lot of games that year and it sucked and I hated it, but you guys know me. I'm a basketball guy. So I went and supported the Hoop Dogs. And I went and supported the Diamond Dogs. And Wes Johnson has done a phenomenal job turning that around as well. So you are right. There is a whole lot more to look forward to in the offseason than there was in previous years, and that's a great thing. So let's hit on it. Baseball this weekend wins the series against Tennessee. They get beat on Friday. So then they have to bounce back on Saturday. They earn the dub there, but everything about this series to talk about comes from the Sunday game. You and I were both keeping up with it, watching it, and they get down 5-0 early in the game, and it's like, oh boy, this is about to get ugly. You know, they jump out 3-0 in the first inning. Kenny Ishikawa's coming back from injury, first time on the mound since his foot injury. It just isn't going well. He gets pulled out early, give up 2 more runs, and before you blink, Georgia's down 5-0. And I think in the first 2 innings of the game, 5 of the first 6 outs for Georgia were strikeouts. Yeah. So it's like, the offense isn't even looking good. And that's what we're kind of relying on here. We rely on the long ball, baby, and that's not happening at the moment. Well, then offense starts heating up a little bit later in the game. Bryce Callaway comes in for a pinch hit, 3-run jack. You get Daniel Jackson scoring another run. Georgia ends up taking the lead into the 9th inning, up 1 run. Tennessee has a runner on base, and then the infamous home run robbery with 2 outs.
Oh, man.
And boy, oh, boy, was that a moment. And I know it's gone viral all over Twitter if you haven't seen it. A Tennessee player, what's his name? Stone Lawless thinks that he has just hit a go-ahead home run with 2 outs in the top of the 9th to put the Volunteers up 1, only for Cole Johnson, a true freshman at Georgia, to rob the home run. And so come to find out, Stone Lawless thinks that he has hit this home run, spikes the bat into the turf, is celebrating with his team, has no idea that the ball has been caught, and the game is over. I mean, just an ultimate moment.
Nightmare scenario for the Stone Lawless there. Happy that it happened to him because obviously it's against Georgia. The secondhand embarrassment I get from that is like, oh, man.
I don't get secondhand embarrassment from those things, to be honest.
Really?
No, like when it's a moment like that of you went out of your way. Now, like I'm not saying that I disagree with the reaction from him. Like maybe spiking the bat in the dirt with two hands is a bit much. Like I like bat flips. I'm all here for it. I'm here for the showboating, whatever. I think it's great, entertaining. I know that some of the older people may not agree with that, but I think it's added some flair to the sport, and I think it's great to see some emotions being shown. But I mean, like it was a huge moment for him, or what he thought was about to be a huge moment for himself. So, I mean, I don't get secondhand embarrassment from that, like, because, one, like, you went out of your way to do that. You chose to do that.
Right. That's why I think I get it.
It was just a great play.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
It's one thing if you do it and it ends up being a single because you weren't running. Like, it bounces off the wall and you only get to first base because you weren't running and paying attention. But the guy robbed a home run. I mean, he made one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in my life. So, I don't really get secondhand embarrassment for that, but I can also guarantee you that every time he's up to bat from now on here in the SEC schedule, that boy's going to be hearing about it from the opposing fan bases. That's for sure.
He will.
Certainly not a moment. And it's one of those things, too, where you're never going to be able to escape it because it's certainly one of those clips that it's always going to circulate back onto the internet. Every time Georgia plays Tennessee in baseball now, that clip is going to resurface on the internet, and everybody's going to be reminded that, oh, yeah, Stone Lawless, what an idiot. That guy did that. That was him. But, yeah, not a great year for Tennessee against Georgia in the athletics this year.
It is not.
You want to talk about premature celebrations, that field goal, that missed field goal. Boy, was that a premature celebration as well.
I mean, so much so that we were in the stadium. I thought they made it.
I did too because, the angle that we're sitting at in the press box, like we're in the – I don't know. It's like the field goal is over here, so they're kicking this way. We're like back here in the press box. So like we're not even on an angle. You can't even tell if the ball's going in. So we're just watching the crowd. That's all you have to go off of, the crowd and also the referees. And as soon as the ball goes up in the air, Tennessee fans are going nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they just drilled it. They won. Tennessee got a win over Georgia finally. And then one half of the stadium starts going quiet a little bit, and then you see the referees saying no good, and then the whole stadium is like, what just happened? Why is everybody quiet? Like, we missed it?
The first thing that tipped it off for me was watching Georgia's sideline go crazy. I was like,
yes,
wait
that
a minute.
too.
That doesn't happen when they make a field goal.
It was so confusing being in that stadium watching all of that happen because every Tennessee fan other than the people that were sitting directly behind the goalpost was like, we just won. We just beat Georgia. This is awesome. We didn't blow the lead. And then immediately we're brought back down to earth. Like, and now we got to go to overtime and
how it
ultimately lose in overtime. Man, what a time. But yeah, shout out to the baseball team. And then also, of course, shout out to the basketball team. Back-to-back years, they have now made the NCAA tournament. First time since 2001 and 2002.
I don't remember them doing it back then.
Yeah, so me and you were just 1 or 2 years old when that happened.
This is a first for me for sure.
And those wins have since been vacated if you know anything about Georgia basketball. So really doesn't even mean all that much. But yeah, Mike White and them boys are dancing once again this year. They will play St. Louis on Thursday at 9:45 p.m. in Buffalo, New York.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a show for that?
I will not be here. I'll be in an undisclosed location.
What the hell does that mean?
I'm going to Vegas. I'll be in Vegas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that why you're not disclosing? Because you're worried I'll join in?
No, you can happily join in. It was actually my birthday present.
Oh, well, happy birthday, man.
Yeah, from my in-laws. So thank you to my in-laws for gifting that. Yeah, dude.
Yo.
Look, and it was one of those things where it's like, I mentioned it once. I was like, it'd be really cool. I would love to go to Vegas for March Madness and just like sit in a sports book and have all those TVs and watch March Madness. And, my in-laws, being the gracious people that they are, were like, well, we'll make that happen. So I'm doing that this year. So I'll leave on Wednesday, so we'll not be here for Thursday's show.
I need to get in line with that family, start cozying up to them.
You're halfway there, I suppose. Being friends with me, maybe one day.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah,
you know what I'd really like? For my friend Kirby to get a brand new car. That'd make me so
Kirby's
happy.
driving an absolute beater right now. I mean, barely making it to work. But no, yeah, they're just super gracious people. Always been great to me. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. But yeah, Dogs are going dancing in the tournament again. Certainly think they got a better break this year than they did last year. You know, they were 9 seed last year and got charged with having to face Gonzaga, a very well-known basketball team, and they paid for it with a 21-point loss. This year, matched up against St. Louis, who's a good team, but a much more beatable opponent, I would say. But if you win that one, then you most likely have to play the number 1 seeded Michigan Wolverines. But hey, just win one, and then you move on, and we'll focus on the next one.
That's right. That's all we need.
But in the spirit of it being March, you know, one of my favorite times of the year, Kirby.
I know.
Might say the favorite time of the year.
Don't worry, Jay. Well, I know that this is the best time of year for you.
In spirit of it being March, we have decided to create our very own Georgia March Madness bracket. So let's go take a look at what we got over there. Going to the board. I don't get to do this very often, Christian, so I hope it delivers. I hope I do everything properly. Hopefully there's no mishaps. Hopefully my handwriting is better than Brooks's, but I'm sure chat will do their due diligence in making sure that I get made fun of for it. And also, audio, I hope it's good. Let me know if it's not. If there's anything that we can fix, let Kirby know in the chat over there as I cannot see it. Yeah, I am. So I'm having to put your skills to work at the moment.
That's fine.
All right. So we have the Georgia football game bracket. So we took our favorite or our best, in our opinion, since 2007. Was that the mark that we decided on?
Yeah, I think that's the time you and I both started consciously watching Georgia football.
Yep. So if you're a fan and you're sitting here saying, like, why is this game not on here? If it was prior to 2007, we didn't put it on here because we were very young children, still didn't really know exactly what was going on in college football. So we wanted to do our best educated list of games, make sure that we could really talk about them as well and give our best opinions. And then we did our best to put them in proper seeds as well. So, for instance, the first game we have, the number 1 seed 2021 national title versus the 16 seed 2023 Ole Miss game.
I think it's fairly obvious that we're all going to go national title here as the superior game.
The 2023 Ole Miss game, we wanted to put on this one because it was senior night. If you remember correctly, this was the game where Brock Bowers came back from tightrope surgery. It was the last time he was playing in Sanford Stadium, the last time that Ladd McConkey was playing in Sanford Stadium. A lot of great Georgia football players the last time that we were going to get to see Javon Bullard, all those guys. So it was just a really good moment where you beat the crap out of Ole Miss. And you got a fitting end to a historic run from that class. So, yes, I would say that the 2021 Natty does indeed move on to the second round here.
Totally understandable. And that was also a game where I think that coming into it, there were some fears of, it's a decent Lane Kiffin team. It's a top 10 Ole Miss team. And and it was a back-and-forth affair at first. I think
it was.
Ole Miss scored first. It was 14-14 late into the second quarter. And then Georgia just opened up a can. It was like, this is the Georgia team I'm used to watching. So it was a fun game. It was a night game, obviously. Great environment. Great weather, too. So.
Oh, yeah, it was. I was there for that one. It was a great way to end also my time as a student as well as my last Georgia football game as a student. Sad times, But, hey, a great end to a run. Audio good according to chat right now?
No one's complaining.
No complaints. We'll take it. All right, we'll flip over to our other number 1 seed, the 2022 Natty versus the 2017 Tennessee game. This was the 41-0 shutout against the Volunteers in Neyland Stadium. Freshman Jake Fromm and the guys go up to Knoxville, Tennessee, and just beat the crap out of Tennessee.
So I think the reason we put this, or at least the reason why I felt like this was a great 16 seed to have on the bracket, it's obviously not a good game whatsoever. Georgia destroys them from start to finish. I think they Tyreek McGee intercepts the first pass of the game. But it was kind of a moment where you felt like, all right, things are going to kind of be different around Kirby Smart. This is a team that has clearly taken a step forward and is beating the hell out of a Tennessee team that, in realisticness, Georgia would have beaten in the past, but probably wouldn't have destroyed like that. It felt like you were watching something special, and obviously that was kind of the coming out party for DeAndre Swift as well. So
yeah, it was just one of those games of we feel like we got to have on the list, worth talking about, but certainly not comparable to the 2022 National Championship. Next up on the list, we got the number 2 seed 2022 Peach Bowl, Georgia versus Ohio State versus the 15 seed 2014 Belk Bowl. This was Nick Chubb running for over 200 yards against nonetheless Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator for Louisville. Just kind of a fitting moment. And, of course, anything that involves Nick Chubb going off, that's a great moment to have.
The Todd Grantham revenge game, Nick Chubb having a really, really not the Nick Chubb coming out part, but kind of the validation of, man, he's going to be special in 2015. A very fun game to watch, but obviously doesn't hold a candle to the 22 Peach Bowl.
Oh, gosh, no. One of the best football games I've ever seen in person. Was super awesome to be able to go at that game. All right. On the other side of the bracket, we have the number 2 seed 2017 Rose Bowl. Don't have to give much description for that one. Versus the 15 seed 07 Sugar Bowl. This is when Georgia beat Hawaii into an oblivion.
This is a very tough pull for the 07 Sugar Bowl because that is such an iconic game. Now, the game itself is not very good. I think Georgia wins 41-10, but the black jerseys in the Sugar Bowl, the Colt Brennan hype that was coming in for Hawaii that season, and Georgia absolutely shutting it down and building hope to what would ultimately be there, being ranked number 1 in 2008. People kind of look at that 2007 team as kind of the, hey, if we had a 12-team playoff back then, team's winning the Natty. So a very iconic matchup, but obviously you're not going to rank that ahead of the 17 Sugar Bowl.
I recently rewatched the 07 Sugar Bowl, I want to say a couple months ago, and man, it truly just shows how much different football is today.
Yeah.
Watching Matthew, especially knowing Matthew Stafford is still playing football today. I've watched him in the NFL for my entire life, and seeing how different he plays now than he did in college. Watching Matthew Stafford consistently line up in the I formation, and we got fullbacks, and we got big tight ends running around. Watching the offense operate then to what Matthew Stafford operates now in the NFL level, completely different. But a really good game to go back and rewatch. So I'll go ahead and put this 17 Rose Bowl over here.
Understandable. I mean, that's a sleeper for the number. Should have been the number 1 pick, some would argue. I think that we both decide ultimately, winning natties, no matter the quality of game, it's a 1 seed. I get it.
All right, now we have the number 3 seed 2022 Tennessee game. This was number 1 versus number 1. Tennessee comes into town to Athens, the rain. Great environment, one of the best environments I have ever been in Sanford Stadium. I might even say the best. Against the number 14 seed 09 Georgia Tech game. Joe Cox and the boys upset the Yellow Jackets.
Interesting pool here. I think the 22 game is ranked a little high for this, but
really,
yeah, I think
why?
That it was a great game. It was a great moment. I think that's the greatest live atmosphere to be in, but the second half of that game kind of tapered off. It was more just a defensive excitement. Still a really good game. The 09 Georgia Tech game is also one of these very interesting games. Washawn Ely and Caleb King just basically ran up and down the Georgia Tech defense. I think they finished the night with over 330 rushing yards. A rare upset victory against Georgia Tech back then. They were a top 10 team when Georgia played. I think Georgia had lost 4 or 5 games at that point in the season, was kind of just having a down year. Obviously, that upset against Georgia Tech really turned things around. So I would vote 22 Tennessee, but this is the first one where I had to at least think about it. Not the first. It's the first non-no-brainer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The 09 Georgia Tech game, it was one of those years where Georgia really had nothing going for them. It was just such a down year. I wouldn't say disappointment, but it was just one of those years of things didn't deliver. But getting to upset Georgia Tech at the very end of the year, remind them that who actually still runs the state. They're ranked top 25. All that great stuff. You pull off the upset. One of the few highlight moments from that season, but a really good one. But yeah, I agree. The 2022 Tennessee game certainly gets to move on in this situation. All right. The other side, number 3 seed 2024 SEC Championship game, Georgia versus Texas, the overtime win, the introduction of Gunnar Stockton. And then we also have the 2019 Florida game as the 14 seed.
Now, this was the classic Jake Fromm kind of having the down year. People are doubting him. Lawrence Cager goes off in this game. The Eli Wolf third down conversion to win the game. I think this was also the first year that you experienced the Florida quarterback whose name I'm blanking on right now.
Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask, yes, thank you. Beating that team, people were kind of worried that this might be the year Florida gets Georgia, but ultimately ended up working out in Georgia's favor. I'm very conflicted on this one, too, because for as much as the 24 SEC Championship game had a fantastic ending and a fantastic finish, it wasn't that exciting of a matchup in the lead up to. It was a lot of defensive struggle back and forth. A very frustrating first half, might I add, because it was classic, man, same old Georgia offense in 2024. They're dropping passes. They can't march down the field. They can't punch it in once they get past the green zone. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton came in and provided that touchdown coming out of the third quarter and ignited the offense. But still a very kind of methodical game with an iconic finish, though. So I would vote 24 SEC championship game.
It did have an iconic finish. It had some great moments. It ended up having a great storyline as well. I think people do forget, I know I tend to forget this as well, the 2019 Georgia-Florida game was not one of these instances where Georgia was ranked in the top 25 and Florida was struggling. This was to decide the East at this point in time. Florida was ranked in the top 10. They were still very much in contention to go play in the college football playoff at this moment. The winner of this game was likely going to move on and be in position to do so. And ultimately, Georgia ended up getting the job done, a very close football game as well. So I tend to forget about that one and kind of misplace it in time a little bit. Yeah, I agree. The 2024 SEC Championship game, I think, barely nudges over the 2019 Florida game. Chat loving this? Are they liking this?
Yeah, they're putting in their input and stuff. And if we get too conflicted, I think we can rely on chat. So make sure.
I know that they'll let us know which ones maybe we need to rethink. All right, number 4, the 4-seeded 2012 Georgia-Florida game versus the 2021 Clemson game. So this is 10-3. Don't really know what to make of it. Introduction of Brock Bowers. I think he had 13 receptions in this game.
Yes.
I want to say force-fed him the ball. Defense was electric. Chris Smith gets the pick 6, the only touchdown in this game versus one of the best Georgia-Florida games that has ever been played.
Obviously, 2012 Florida for the moment, for the legend of Malcolm Mitchell catching that hitch and scoring a touchdown. Jarvis Jones strip sack, Todd Gurley gator chomp. 2012 was a better game, but the 2021 Clemson game is the first Georgia football game that I watched as a student, and I have so many fond memories from that night, going downtown after watching them win, just being a Georgia student and feeling like I was a part of that team. It holds a special place in my heart, but it does not hold a candle to the 2012 Florida game.
Yeah, and I know that hindsight impacts the 2021 Clemson game a little bit because all in all, a 10-3 football game isn't all that exciting, from the sound of it. But, hindsight, it was also, the perception of what that defense ended up being, just how talented they were. It wasn't just one of these times where Georgia went up against a really bad Clemson offense and that's where they dominated them. No, it was because Georgia's defense was that good. You literally could not move the ball against them. You couldn't do anything. So I agree, though, the 2012 Florida game probably needs to be the one that moves on here.
This is going to take up the whole episode.
It just might. I thought it would be a lengthy episode. All right. Another fantastic football game. Number 4 seed 2013 Georgia versus LSU versus the 13 seed 08 Georgia versus Kentucky game. The famous Matthew Stafford to A.J. Green throw.
Yeah, there's not a lot of debate that has to be done with this one. 2013 LSU.
Oh, my God.
One of the more rewatchable Georgia football games.
I do it every year.
Too. Mark Richt crying at the end of it. Just the absolute last-second go-ahead touchdown with Justin Scott Wesley. The defensive stand, Leonard Floyd's big sack on that drive. So many major moments. Obviously, that season didn't go how you wanted it to, but that game in a vacuum is a fantastic watch. 2013 LSU all the way.
Yeah, I will never be able to get out of my mind of Leonard Floyd jumping over the offensive lineman.
It was actually Jordan Jenkins who did that.
It was Jordan Jenkins. It was Jordan Jenkins jumping over the offensive lineman, trying to get Mettenberg. That just is engraved in my mind. One of the coolest things I've ever seen, but one of the best football games I've ever watched.
Fantastic.
For sure.
And ages very, very well. Jarvis Landry's in that. Odell Beckham Jr.'s in that. Keith Marshall, Todd Gurley. I know Todd Gurley sprains his ankle early into the game, so there wasn't as much of an effect, but very, very fun game to come back and watch if you're just a football fan in general.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, and it is certainly probably the game. If I could go back in time, and attend one Georgia football game, it'd probably be that one. That's the one that I really wish I could have been to. Duck Dynasty was in attendance for that one, Christian.
Did not know that.
All right, moving on. We got the number 5 seed 2024 Georgia versus Georgia Tech game, the 8 overtime thriller. versus the 12 seed 2023 Georgia versus Auburn game.
Both good games. One was a fantastic legendary game. Was in person. Got to see them live and in person for both of them. Was a fan for the Georgia Tech game. Was a media member for the 23 Auburn game.
I was a media member for both.
Georgia Tech will absolutely have my vote. Another absolutely legendary night in Athens for yours truly. My parents were there for that night as well. So I had a bunch of high school friends in town because it was obviously Black Friday after Thanksgiving. Night game, 8 overtimes. Georgia comes back from down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. You know the story. Not much to say there. Georgia Tech gets the win.
I'm glad that you could go celebrate downtown. I had to do some work.
Bro, let me tell you, there was a lot of celebrating.
Some of us were working.
Some would say I was celebrating all the way till 4:30 in the morning.
Definitely a win that validates that decision for sure. But yeah.
And then that's only because the game ended at 2:30. I mean, God.
Yeah. I didn't think I was ever going to get to go home in that one. Boy,
Oof.
what a game that was. All right, moving on to the other side of the bracket. We got the number 5 seed. This past season, Georgia versus Ole Miss in the regular season.
Regular season, very important.
Regular season game, not the Sugar Bowl, the regular season matchup versus the 12-seeded 2013 Georgia-Florida game.
Very underrated game. Does not get talked about enough. Georgia jumps out to a massive lead. Todd Gurley's returned from his ankle injury that he suffered against LSU. At this point in the season, Georgia's year had kind of taken a turn for the worse. Keith Marshall was lost. Justin Scott Wesley was lost. They had lost to, I think, Vanderbilt at this time. It was kind of, hey, what is Georgia's season going to be now? Comes out, they're dominating Florida. Florida comes crawling back. And Georgia basically ices the game with what I think was a 7-minute drive in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, very underrated game. Obviously, I don't think it holds anything to the 25 Ole Miss game. I mean, you open the first 10 possessions with scores on both sides. Fantastic matchup. Fantastic moment in Athens. The loudest I've ever heard Athens personally. So, Ole Miss will get the nod there, I believe.
Yeah, fantastic game to watch. Were both of those ones, but getting a Georgia versus Ole Miss matchup and when it just turns into a complete shootout, like a very unique format of game, especially for Georgia, like for them to be in that position and for them to be the one that comes out on top in that situation as well. Just an all-around great game. Speaking of great games, we got number 6 seed 2017 Georgia versus Notre Dame, and we have the 11 seed 07 Auburn game.
Obviously, the Notre Dame game is closer. And there's plenty of iconic moments in that. Davin Bellamy's fumble, Terry Godwin's one-handed catch, them absolutely flooding Notre Dame Stadium and taking that over. I might go the upset here. And maybe it's
I low-key want to go the upset.
Maybe it's the nostalgia. Maybe it's the fact that it's the first time they wore black jerseys. But there's something that just sticks out to me a little bit more for the 07 Auburn game.
This 07 Auburn has aura. There's a whole lot of aura around that game.
The Soldier Boy dancing, No Sean Marino's fantastic game. Matthew Stafford, Damascus, obviously the black jerseys. Rennie Curran lighting people up. I'm voting Auburn in this game. If chat wants to push back, they can. But it looks like we're getting Auburn votes.
Okay, because I was going to say, had I gone to South Bend for this game, I probably lean that one. Because it would be really cool to be part of taking over someone else's stadium and like being a part of that, creating a Georgia home game at Notre Dame. And also like it was just, again, one of those moments where it felt like Georgia was kind of turning the tide a little bit with Kirby Smart in that 2017 season. Found out that this Jake Fromm guy is a dude. This team's really good. Really good moments in this 2017 Auburn game, or Notre Dame game. But yeah, I agree. I want the upset here.
Chat also agrees with us. Auburn. We have our first upset of the bracket. This 11 seed over a 6 seed, which pretty common upset.
Those will get you. Those will get you every now and then. Well, let's see if we can do it again. We got the 6-seeded 2007 Bama game against the 07 Georgia-Florida game.
Oh.
Another one where I could see the upset. I see both sides here.
This is also tough because obviously 2007, the Florida game has way more moments. That's, of course, the Gator Stomp. You beat Tim Tebow, all of those things. I mean, this was also
celebration.
This was also at a time when beating Florida was something to celebrate. It was a rarity in the Mark Richt era. But the Bama game was obviously much closer. It's the last time you beat them in Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
Overtime win. It's iconic. Matthew Stafford to Mikey Henderson. I'm conflicted here. I'm personally going to vote 2007 Florida, but I would not push back very hard if people said Alabama.
I'm kind of with you. I think I want the 07 Florida game, to be honest. Like, for when that win was delivered, and, like, again, we're talking about the, like, iconic moments, like things that you remember most from these games. I think the 07 Florida game has more memorable moments than the 07 the 07 Alabama game.
Yeah, it seems like Chad also agrees. So it looks like we have our
07 Florida. Wow.
Second upset.
Both 6 seeds done.
Those are tough pulls, though. Those are that 2007 season, just in general. If you pull anything from that, it's pretty tough to beat. There were some legendary moments from that year.
All right, we got the number 7 seed 2020 Peach Bowl versus the 2013 South Carolina game.
Ooh, another interesting matchup, another nostalgia versus kind of more quality game. Obviously, the 2020 Peach Bowl was when Georgia was struggling against Cincinnati. They wore the black jerseys again. Jack Podlesny's iconic go-ahead kick to win that game. Georgia came back from, I think they were down 2 scores at one point. 2013 South Carolina, also a very fantastic matchup. Georgia had lost to South Carolina 2 years in a row prior, had gotten beat down in 2012 and kind of came out in Athens and was a shootout, if I remember correctly. I think Mark Richt also calls the surprise onside kick that pays off. A very, very fun game there.
I don't know if it's worth the upset or not.
I don't know if it's worth the upset either. I think this is the one where I'm most conflicted. From a pure nostalgia standpoint and thinking of Todd Gurley and Aaron Murray and all those guys, I think USC or South Carolina might get my vote. The 2020 Peach Bowl, looking back at that 2020 team, it feels very much like, that was the 21 national championship team warming up.
Yeah.
The defense hadn't quite reached its legendary status. The talent pieces were still there. You still had Jordan Davis, you still had Jalen Carter, still had a lot of really solid players, but it wasn't in full form. 2013 does kind of hold a special place in my heart, though. Chat's voting 2013.
Are they really?
Yeah,
right.
Chat wants the upset.
I understand it because the 2020 season isn't held in much value.
And that game didn't have a crowd. It wasn't an exciting environment.
Right.
I get it. You know
but
what?
Like you had it was the Aziz Ojulari game. He had a fantastic game. JT Daniels had a perfect Georgia's down there somewhere moment, and it paid off.
Multiple.
He had multiple of those. All right, we got another upset yet again. We're going to put 2013 South Carolina.
I'm actually really enjoying this.
I am too. I think this was a great idea. All right, moving on
Is that just because it was your idea?
I mean, I wasn't going to say it. I didn't claim it. You said it, not me. Number 7 seed 2025, Georgia versus Tennessee. Just got done talking about that game at the beginning of the hour. Versus the 2016 Georgia versus Auburn game. A huge upset for Kirby Smart and the boys in 2016. Maurice Smith, now known as a Georgia legend, some might say, for his pick six.
The Georgia coach, too.
Yeah, Georgia coach, too. Still in Athens. But that 2025 Tennessee game.
Yeah, I think the 7 seed was a surprisingly – this is that classic, like, damn, we got a really good team that got a low seeding than they're worth. That 25 Tennessee game stands up there in some of the greatest regular season games in Georgia history.
This is like the 2025 Tennessee game is like the first one in the Kirby Smart era where you had to endure Tennessee fans for 4 quarters in that environment.
Yeah.
Like the first time where you had it at its peak for the entire football game, and what it looked like Tennessee was finally going to get one over you, they don't. Like, as someone who was at that game, I think there's no upset here. I think it's got to be the 2025.
25 Tennessee definitely gets a vote, but 2016 Auburn deserves a nod for the historical significance that it has to the program in the Kirby Smart era. But you're absolutely right. 2025 Tennessee is the
All right,
clear
in the
winner.
final games of the first round, we have 2013 Georgia versus Georgia Tech and 2013 Georgia versus Tennessee. Shout out Pig Howard.
2 games that are very, very interesting. 2 games that I thought for sure Georgia was going to lose. One, Georgia Tech comes out to a 20-point lead against Georgia early in the first half. Kind of like, damn, we're going to end a really tough season with a loss to Georgia Tech. This sucks. Georgia comes crawling back, obviously forces overtime. Todd Gurley goes off in that game. Ultimately scores the go-ahead touchdown. I believe it was second overtime. Georgia wins. 2013 Tennessee game. A great game as well. Georgia struggling against an unranked Tennessee team. They were top 10 at this point. Another 4-quarter kneel-in battle. Ultimately, Georgia forces overtime with a massive drive for Matthew Stafford. I believe it was Rantavius Wooten who caught
Aaron Smith. Or Aaron Murray, you mean?
Rantavius Wooten who caught the game-winning touchdown.
You said Matthew Stafford.
Oh, no. Sorry. Matthew Stafford has like a... I did it again.
All right.
You take over, dude.
Football brain, huh?
I'm too much football brain.
I was going to say, how do you define the 2013 Tennessee game? Because for me, now there were multiple of these. This was the Aaron Murray put that team on his back game.
Yes. Here's why I'm leaning Tech a little bit. Obviously, Aaron Murray had been hurt at this point. It was the Hudson Mason game. It was kind of the peak into what your season was going to be. That 2013 Tennessee game is hard to go back and watch because it's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic finish. But, man, you go, oh, we lost Nick
They
Marshall
depleted
that
your
game.
roster that
We
game.
lost Justin Scott Wesley that game. We lost I don't remember who else suffered an injury that game. It felt like you were watching Georgia's season crumble
100%.
during that game, and it just so happened you came out with a victory in the end.
100%.
But Tennessee lost the battle, but ultimately won the war there. I'm voting Georgia Tech there because by that point the season had already kind of been spoken for, but at least you ended it on a strong note.
I'm cool with it. I'm fine with voting on that. Am I going to really have to do this?
Seems like Tennessee's also, or it seems like the Tennessee game is not getting as many votes. Tech is getting the love.
All
there.
right. Final round or final game of the first round, 2019 Notre Dame versus 2025 Georgia versus Florida. Now, the 2019 Notre Dame game obviously has a whole lot more to it than just the actual result of the game. It also has, this is the first time you got the red LED lights in the stadium. This is the first time you lit up Sanford Stadium in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
First time Notre Dame had been to the University of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Absolutely electric environment, but the way you beat Florida, and you always talk about this, the final play of this game, all of that entails into beating Florida in 2025 as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the matchup for Georgia-Florida last season was not, the one that it's typically built out to be. Florida was a struggling, unranked team. Georgia was, on the other hand, very much projected to beat Florida. I think they were, 9-point favorites in this game. It ultimately ended up being a fantastic game. I think the Notre Dame matchup was a bigger game that felt, more significant, but it also wasn't the most exciting Georgia game ever. I think this was kind of the first inklings of the 2019 offense is going to have some problems. It took a long time for things to get going. It ultimately took a Devad Wilson interception to get things going. Lawrence Cager had some big plays in this game.
J.R. Reed had that really good play as well.
Yeah, J.R. Reed had the interception on what I believe was like some form of a trick play. But ultimately, that Notre Dame game, I didn't walk away from it going, that's the best football game I've ever watched.
No, it was by far one of the best environments I've ever been a part of. But the overall game itself, you had the DeAndre Swift hurdle. There were obviously some still really memorable moments in this game. This is also the game where you get the epic picture of it's Rodrigo Blankenship and Jake Fromm on the back of the golf cart at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
That picture. So you get some iconic moments.
I'm going to vote the upset, honestly. I think 25 Florida is a better game than Notre Dame.
I don't know.
Now, you were at this game in person.
I was.
Correct?
I was
So
at this game.
You might have a better.
I did the whole shebang. I went to game day. I did all of it.
Oh, man. You were still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Barely.
The light was still in your eyes for college game day. Chat, do you have any votes for this? Because no one's...
2019 Notre Dame, 2025 Florida. This is the first one where me and Kirby have kind of disagreed a little bit.
Looks
on
like we're getting
games.
some Notre Dame votes.
All right, we'll put Notre Dame. I like the argument for the 2025 game, but
yeah, I think it's. I'm not mad about it. I mean, that's a classic 8 versus 9 seed. I think we've seeded that really well.
I think so too. Yeah, I was expecting maybe some pushback on whoa, why is this one a 6 seed or whatever, but. I'd say for the most part, for the 32 games that we picked, I think we did a really good job seeding these games. What's our time at right now? Are we good on time?
Yeah, we're at 42 minutes. Now, Obviously, we've already done the
Yeah, we don't have to rehash all the games.
Correct.
We don't have to talk about the 2021 Natty versus the 2022 Peach Bowl. But, man, both really good games.
If we're voting quality of games, Peach Bowl gets the nod, obviously. If we're voting what that moment meant to you as a Georgia fan, Natty gets the nod.
I know.
So
it's so hard for me to ever pick a game over the 2021 Natty. Like, it's so hard.
Here's why I'm going to say 22 Peach Bowl. If I had to go back and someone came to me and said, hey, you have to watch one of these games start to finish, I'm going to go Peach Bowl.
I certainly do.
It's a more exciting matchup. There's more that happens. The fourth quarter of the 21 Natty is really all you need to watch. Everything in the lead up to that's a couple of field goals, a couple of big plays, but no one scores really. So that's why I'm going 22 Peach Bowl, but I will, again, never have anything negative to say about the 21
What does
Natty.
chat say? What do they think?
Chat's saying Natty. So I've been outvoted, but I'm not again.
I don't look again. I was at the Peach Bowl. I was there for all of it. Going from thinking that you were going to lose this game, that you weren't going to make it back to the national title, to the historic fourth quarter comeback that Stetson Bennett and the offense put on. I mean, the missed field goal. I agree with you. That is a better overall game than the 2021 national title. But it is hard to vote anything past the national title. So I think we'll just move it on.
Understandable. Unfortunate that the 22 Peach Bowl ends in the second
Tough
round,
seeding,
Tough
seeding.
Tough pool.
All right. Now, guys, I know, like, in traditional brackets, the number 2 seed wouldn't automatically
who cares?
move on. But,
Don't even worry about
that's
it.
just how it worked out for us, okay? All right. Then we have the the 2022 Tennessee game versus the 2012 Florida game.
Oh,
Honestly,
not that hard of a decision, honestly. 2012 Florida gets
I was about to
the nod for
say,
me. Way closer game, way more anticipation. 2022 had some great moments as a student, as a fan who was in attendance for that game. It's a fantastic environment, but 2012 wins that one. Pretty
way
easy.
more like nostalgic, iconic moments in that one, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say we're moved far enough that both of these games at this point are nostalgic. So 2012 gets a bigger nod, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
More aura.
More aura. All right, 2024 Georgia Tech, 2007 Auburn. Better game was this one.
Better game was certainly that one. And for as much aura as the 2007 Auburn game had, it wasn't a fantastic game.
No.
Georgia kind of controlled it throughout. It wasn't a fantastic Georgia Tech team. It wasn't a fantastic Auburn team, but I'm going Tech.
I agree with you there. All right. 2 2013 matchups. You taking South Carolina or are you taking Georgia Tech?
I'm going to take Georgia Tech here. I think that the come-from-behind victory was a little bit better. I think this was really the opportunity for Todd Gurley to kind of flex his muscle and remind everyone why he's a legend. Obviously, not having Aaron Murray for this game wasn't as much. And Georgia was a more explosive offense in the South Carolina game, but I'd vote Georgia Tech.
Yeah. I'm cool with that. All right, 2022 Natty versus the 2017 Rose Bowl. Now, if we continue our trend here, quality of game, which one was better? Which one do you rewatch most? 2017 Rose Bowl might be my most rewatched game.
Here's why I'm going to, and I know that it's hard to vote against winning a Natty. Here's why I'm going to vote the 17 Rose Bowl. That was the first instance of my Georgia fandom where it was like, oh my God, we have reached a milestone that I've never seen before. The Georgia Bulldogs are going to the national championship. On top of that, fantastic game. The 2022 Natty is incredible, 65-7. I've never seen that much of an ass beating in college football. You never had seen college football playoff repeat national champions. Fantastic moments, but the 17 Rose Bowl will always stick out.
Dude, I remember the 2017 season when Georgia came out as the number 1 ranked team in the playoff rankings. I posted a video on my Snapchat story of me blaring glory, glory over my trash truck speakers and just screaming my head off. Like, those were the moments that I was seeking as a fan at that point in time of, like, give me anything new. Those things were new for me. Winning the Rose Bowl, going to a national title was certainly new. I agree. I'm putting the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl gets the nod, understandably so. Ooh, this is going to be a good matchup next.
2024 SEC Championship game, 2013 LSU. 2013 LSU.
Yeah, it's not hard at all. Again, for as much as I pondered, Florida, the 19 Florida game winning that, the 2024 SEC Championship game was not all that exciting. The moment of Gunnar Stockton was kind of the legend is born, a star is born, but you can kind of watch the cliff notes of that game and get all you need to. That 2013 LSU game, you want to watch the entire thing.
Yeah, that matchup in the next round is going to be real tough. 2025 Ole Miss, 27 Florida. I think it's got to go 07 Florida if I'm picking one.
Really?
I think so. For what it means to me, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's the 2025 Ole Miss regular season game's a really good one. I wasn't at the game, though, so you have a different point of view.
Being at that game, and we didn't mention this last, Stripe Sanford, massive
success. Did do that. That was a success.
Turned out really great. Being at that game was a fantastic treat. It is a legendary moment, and I think it will age kind of well. I think what happened in the Sugar Bowl significantly damages the legacy of this football game. I want to pick 2025 Ole Miss, but it feels like my heart tells me that 07 Florida is the correct answer here.
I think so, too. I think so, too.
But, damn, fantastic college football game. Could make the argument probably one of the best games I've seen live.
Right,
or I could make the argument that 2025 Tennessee or 2025 Florida was. All of those.
All right, I think this one's a no-brainer. 2025 Tennessee, 2019 Notre Dame.
You mean 2016 Auburn? Or, yeah, never mind. I'm tripping. Yeah, 2025 Tennessee.
I think that one gets the nod.
That might be the longest, the most successful regular season game we have on this list.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to beat that from a regular season standpoint.
All right, we got our Elite Eight. We got 2021 Natty, 2012 Florida.
I hate that this is where the road ends for 2012 Florida.
Oh, man.
You're not beating the 21 Natty. That's not the game to beat the 21 Natty.
Yeah, that one is not the game. I agree. Gosh, what a phenomenal game, though.
If you want an upset, you need something a little stronger than 2012 Florida. For as incredible as that game is. Sorry.
All right, 2024 Georgia Tech or 2013 Georgia Tech. Give them the nod of 2024.
Yeah, 2024 Georgia Tech gets the nod. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for the 2013 Georgia Tech game, again, wasn't a super exciting matchup for the start. And again, was not that for Georgia in 24 either, but 8 overtimes, the way that Georgia won that game, it's going to be hard to beat that from a regular season standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. All right, the dreaded one. 2017 Rose Bowl versus the 2013 LSU game.
The Rose Bowl is the obvious answer.
It's the obvious one.
But it feels disrespectful to say,
it feels wrong.
Oh, that's the obvious answer. 2013 LSU doesn't really matter. They're both iconic games, but the 17 Rose Bowl is, I mean, we knew it was going to make a deep run.
Yeah, man, it's got to move on. I'm sorry, 2013 LSU, but it's the Rose Bowl. 07 Florida versus 2025 Tennessee. I think I'm going 2025 Tennessee.
I'm going to go 2025 Tennessee as well. Look, the 07 Florida game is probably going to end up being more iconic. Now, time will have to tell. It's been almost 20 years since that Florida game happened, and it still gets talked about. We'll have to wait another 20 years to see the Tennessee game. But the Tennessee game from start to finish was a close game. It was a high action-packed game. It had a massive comeback. It had a road victory. It had everything you'd want to see in a Georgia game. I got to go 2025 Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do. The Cinderella run comes to an end for 07 Florida as an 11 seed. All right, we got the Final Four. 2021 national title versus the 2024 Georgia Tech game.
Again, if you're going to beat the 21 national title, you got to give me – I think if the 22 Peach Bowl wasn't going to be better than the national title, there wasn't anything on that side of the bracket that was going to beat the 21 Natty.
And I will say this. There is something about this game that despite the fact that Georgia won, it's still a little frustrating, the fact that it was that close and it took that much.
And you look back at it, and it's like, well, Carson Beck was the quarterback then, and that doesn't necessarily age very well in Georgia lore. Like, there's not anything from the 21 Natty where you look back and go, that didn't end up working out very well.
It's like the defense couldn't stop anything. Like it was a frustrating game.
Very
frustrating game. So I agree. I'm putting the 21 Natty here. In the championship,
Shocker.
yeah, surprise, surprise. 2017 Rose Bowl versus the 2025 Tennessee game. Very similar games, style of games.
Yeah, actually, very good point.
Both
there.
games, Georgia had a multi-score comeback, shootout games, a bunch of points scored, took overtime in both of these. Very similar, almost endings. Like Nate Frazier dang near had a replication of what Sony Michel did to Tennessee or to Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. So very similar.
I think for everything that you just said, you just completely destroyed 25 Tennessee's case.
Yeah.
Because in a vacuum, they're very similar games. One was to send Georgia to the national championship for the first time in 30-something years. The other was just a regular season game against Tennessee. So I think we know what the answer is here.
All right. Our national title game for the Georgia football game bracket. The 2021 national title game coming in as a number 1 seed, and the 2017 Rose Bowl coming in as a number 2 seed. Kind of went chalk here a little bit, but we didn't. We didn't just take both number 1 seeds. That would be lame, I would say. But which one are you picking? I do agree with you. Like you saying that is going to make me pick this one. If this doesn't beat that, I don't know that this beats that. If 2022 Peach Bowl doesn't beat the 2021 Natty, I don't know that the Rose Bowl should.
So the argument I used for the 22 Peach Bowl is the same one I'm going to use for the 17 Rose Bowl tenfold. If you told me, hey, you have to rewatch one of these football games, I'm going to take the 2017 Rose Bowl. If you told me that, hey, you have to go back and just relive the legendary moments from this, I would probably take the 21 Natty. So it honestly all depends. What are you looking for in this? Are you looking for to relive those moments? Because nothing will top the fourth quarter of the 21 Natty.
There's not a single play that I will ever rewatch more than the Keely Ringo pick six.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single play. But I do have a funny story about like rewatching the 2017 Rose Bowl. So I'm at a cabin with me and a bunch of my friends, and my dad is there. And we're waiting for, this is over SEC Championship game weekend, and it's Friday night. We don't have anything to do. And we find that the Rose Bowl is being replayed on TV. So it's me and my dad sitting out there. We're rewatching it, talking about all these players that we forgot about. But in the midst of rewatching this game, my dad is sitting there acting like he's watching it for the first time. So like when Oklahoma scores, he's like, damn, defense can't stop anybody. It's like, oh, come on, Roquan got me. Like, it was so funny to watch.
Is my dad having memory loss? Or?
But it was like also somewhat relatable because like I have those feelings when I rewatch games too of like I know the outcome, I know what's about to happen, but there's moments where I'm like, dang man, can't believe we gave that up right there. But I think it's got to be the winner. I think it's got to be the 2021.
Whoa, we haven't agreed yet. Keep that 20 up there. Chad is also very conflicted on this.
They're very conflicted too. Okay, I'm glad it's not just us.
And I think before we make our ultimate decision, I think we can all agree that it's two very different games that all depend on what you're looking for. If you want high octane action that's going to have, multiple moments, you want the Rose Bowl. Here's the other reason why I'm going to go with the Rose Bowl. More legendary players.
I was going to say
Roquan making legendary plays in this. Sony Michel having 4 touchdowns. Nick Chubb having incredible plays in this game. Like Lorenzo Carter blocks. Like the amalgamation.
Rodrigo's field goal before halftime.
The amalgamation of that 2017 season was the result of all of those guys coming together to contribute and get you over the edge. The 21 Natty has this, but like Keely Ringo wasn't a Georgia legend before that moment.
No, I agree.
Stetson Bennett wasn't even a Georgia legend before that. Like those moments made the Georgia Legends, whereas Georgia Legends made moments in that game.
Both were super satisfying wins in the sense of obviously it's satisfying to get a national title, but it was also like super satisfying to watch a bunch of players that had kind of been on some letdown teams, struggled through some years, went through some bad seasons, to finally get the moment that everybody felt like they deserved. Most like Roquan, like mostly Nick Chubb and Sony Michel.
Chat is starting to lean towards Natty, so I will give the Natty the nod. But I don't like.
It's a buzzer beater 3 type situation. It's close the whole way. I think that one team just, they hit the final shot, ran out of time. I think the Rose Bowl might have ran out of time. Didn't lose, just ran out of time.
Yeah, classic.
I think it's one of those situations. I would be okay putting either. I really don't care. I think both are fitting champions of this bracket, but I think we'll give the nod to the Natty because
understandable.
It's hard to not say the Natty.
So after our March Madness college football game bracket, the 2021 National Championship game is the greatest Georgia Bulldogs game of all time. I don't think you'll find many people that disagree with that statement, and I don't think you'll find many people that are going to be up in arms about the Rose Bowl not winning. However, I am sad that I had to pick against it because it is one of my favorite memories. Me and my cousin ran through the streets of Seaside with a Georgia flag, blasting Sony Michelle's rap songs after that game. So a lot of fun memories for me as well, but a solid bracket, I think.
I really hope chat enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed doing that, and I think as much as Christian enjoyed doing that, and I hope it played out as good as we thought it would. Didn't think it was going to end up taking up the entire show. We had plenty of segments lined up for you guys, but great news. We're going to be right back here tomorrow, and we just get to turn these – oh, you want to do your running back segment real quick?
I was just saying, we've got a few minutes, so let's just hit some quick final questions before spring begins because obviously spring practice will begin tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
So I have 3 questions that I think will be answered during spring. One of them is, how much has Ryan Puglisi progressed during this? Don't do that to me. That was an accident, dude. I got progressed mixed up. That was not me making a mean joke. But no, I think that's something you'll get answered there. Another one is, who's the receiving back on third down? Cash Jones absent. Dude, come on.
I'm sorry.
Lock back in for the
sorry,
segment.
all right? Look, we've been very professional this entire time, so I'm sorry. It's been building, all right?
Jay, we're going to have a very good laugh about that when the cameras go off.
Just
and
go.
We're going to make some jokes afterwards, but can't do it now.
Just go.
Who's a receiving back on third down? I think the absence of Cash Jones is really going to be felt and kind of something that you're going to have to address this offseason. I feel like we'll get some hints of those answers. And the third one is, who's opposite of KJ Bolden? Mm-hmm. You're not going to get a definite answer, but you're going to get kind of the ideas of who they're working in this spot. 3 that I don't think will be answered is, your receiver room ready? We're not going to know that just based on spring. We've seen spring be very, very deceitful in that room before. Number 2, is Gunnar Stockton better at protecting himself? He's a non-contact guy. You're not going to get that answer, so no clue there. And then third, what does Larry Knight bring to this defense? For the reasons of you're not going to get to be able to contact the quarterback, I don't know necessarily what you're going to get of a pass rush standpoint. Maybe from a win now you might see that, but I don't know if it's going to be able to complete sacks.
And it won't matter until you see it in a game. That's also one of those things. For mine that will be answered, who is at left guard or right guard? I don't know where they're going to play Donnie Glover this upcoming season. I'd imagine it's going to be next to Juan Gasson, but is he going to play left tackle? Is he going to play right tackle? But who's going to be the other starting guard opposite of Donnie Glover? Is how I should phrase that. Who's the third corner? We know DeMello and Ellis Robinson are the starters here, but who's going to be the third guy? Is it going to be Braylon Conley, the USC transfer? Who's going to step up in that area? Gentry Williams, is he going to be a guy that slides in over at corner, the Oklahoma guy? Just don't know who that's going to be. I think you'll get that answer there. Which freshmen are day ones? I don't think you'll really find that out until you really get to fall camp because you got to see how these guys progress throughout the spring and also make sure that they don't get injured and they lose time on their track to playing time. So, but I think those will be answered. Won't be answered. Who is the starter at star? Rayshawn Dinkins looks the part, but Jamali Riddle, Khalil Barnes, where are those guys going to play? Mm-hmm. Figuring out the guy who's opposite of KJ is probably going to be the starter there, where you start first and then you figure out who's going to be star. Who is next behind Harris, Johnson, and Williams? Who's going to be the next edge? I don't know if that gets answered this spring. There's so many names and so many bodies that need reps. I think it's only going to continue into fall camp of figuring out who's going to be the next guy in that rotation. And then my final one that won't be answered is, you got to wait till Saturdays to figure it out of just how good will Sokovie White-Helton be. I think he's a big indicator and proponent of this offense of how far they will go, how good he is this season. That's a big question that needs to be asked.
I mean, surely based on the impact that Zachariah Branch had, of course Sokovie White's going to be a massive piece to this offense this year. So even if he isn't as the playmaker he is, how can Georgia change their approach to that. I mean, he's going to be a massive impact on the offense, whether or not he's as successful as Zachariah Branch or not.
Yep. See, look, guys, we didn't shortchange you anything. We went overtime in the Talk That Dog Hour. We'll have more topics loaded up for you guys tomorrow. Again, it'll just be me and Christian in the studio while Brooks continues his football pilgrimage this year. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us this entire time. We'll see you tomorrow.